Welcome to Late Night Boxing Talks. I came across a lot of interesting reads. Shout out to Drew for sending me the ESPN article. I might still do a segment on that because it does need to be addressed. So, like I said yesterday, it is a slightly different issue than the Showtime boxing issue, but both are interconnected because what it do, Toby, what it do, Danny, what it do, Juancho, que lo que manín. Quentin, what matter of fact, Quentin, here's a link for you, bro. Here's a link for you, bro. This link is for Quentin. This link is not for 9 other people. This link is for Quentin. Because I be trying to get Quentin up here, but it's always like 10, 20 people up here whenever I try to get him on. You know. And what this pertains to, I came across some interesting reads today, good reads, the stuff that's going on with ESPN, Disney, and their business strategy moving forward, what their problems are. And I also came across an article that shows that the provider for the Fury versus Ngannou fight, depending on what market you live in, where you live, what territory, is going to be distributed by DAZN, the DAZN that everybody ridiculed and laughed at. But I told y'all they was going to be around. I told y'all that streaming apps are the future of sports because if you're like me and Quentin, we don't want all those channels because we don't watch them. That's why the cable model is failing because a basic cable package came with a lot of things that you don't use, like a Galaxy phone. You get a Galaxy, it's a lot of stuff in there. You may never use that stuff the entire duration of your usage of a device. And cable packages are kind of like that, or they have been that. Yeah, you might watch a couple of those channels, but the bulk of them you don't actually watch. So at a time when Americans are cutting the cord and only really subscribing specifically to what they want to watch, cable packages are not what they used to be. A lot of Americans are cutting the cord, and ESPN, the platform, it's feeling the pinch. And it's not necessarily that ESPN's content is failing so much as the model that they've been operating from is failing. Quentin, what it do?
What's good, man? What's going on?
Well, I read an article that ESPN is having some troubles. The Disney thing, that basically because I know that a lot of people are going to liken this to the Showtime issue. I know that they are, and I feel like it requires some deciphering, that it is a slightly different issue that is interconnected with what Showtime is experiencing, but at its root, it's not the same issue. You know what I mean? That Showtime's issue was a content specific issue where any content that is underperforming, not exclusive to boxing either. There were TV shows that got canceled because they were underperforming as well. But Showtime's issue was content specific, and ESPN's issue seems to be model specific. That if you were relying on basic cable packages to draw eyes to your network, and now Americans are cutting the cord, that's why you're feeling the pinch. It's not that your content is underperforming, it's that the model you've been operating from is underperforming. So, they're going to have some problems in 2025, or they might, unless they can figure something out.
So just to get to the gist of the article, because I haven't read it. Obviously, I know about the whole Showtime situation. The ESPN issue is that they're having trouble getting people to watch their programming on cable. Is that what the article was basically summarizing?
What the article states is that ESPN may not have the finances to re-up on their sports contracts because as Americans are cutting the cord for basic cable, that less and less Americans are getting conventional cable packages. They're losing eyes because of that, and they're losing so many eyes that even though they still want this content, the college football, all that good stuff, they still want the content. It's not that they're trying to cut it. They're saying that when it's time to re-up, they may not have the money to re-up. That's what they're saying.
Mm. Well, I know that your channel in general is a boxing specific channel. That's the primary sport that you discuss. But if you step off the path and you look at ESPN as a whole, ESPN has only one game per week in the NFL.
Mm.
The NFL is probably the number one moneymaker when you talk about TV rights, when you talk about viewership for this country. Very similar to like, Premier League soccer in the UK. It's the number one thing that's going to bring you, eyes and subscribers if if you have somebody who's just wanting to stream. ESPN is having an issue right now, from what I understand, because they only get one, maybe on a certain week, 2 games a week
Wow.
from the NFL, because they have Monday Night Football. Sometimes they get a doubleheader, but that's it. They have no Sunday games. They don't get Thursday
Wow.
Night Football anymore. So they're pretty much just relying on shoulder programming, shows like First Take, shows like Get Up. What is the other
So,
one?
so where
Sunday
where
NFL
where are the
Countdown.
other games? Where are the other games well, because it's also there's a local factor, but
Mhm.
where are some of the other platforms that the games are being shown? What other platforms are showing them? Amazon?
No, so Amazon has Thursday Night Football, NBC has Sunday Night Football, and
There
then
it is.
Fox and CBS split everything during the day on Sundays. So Fox and CBS is where you'll get your local channels if you have a traditional cable box. But they just started this new thing with YouTube TV, where the NFL was going to subscribe their Sunday NFL ticket subscribers, that they had to sign up for YouTube TV. It was a big, huge, kind of disgruntlement for those NFL fans, that they were forced to not continue with their standard packaging through their cable network. Because like my parents had Sunday NFL ticket where they could watch any game they wanted to in the 1 o'clock and the 3 o'clock slot at no additional fee outside of what they were already paying through their cable package. But this year, the NFL rebranded with YouTube TV, went all streaming. So if you want NFL Sunday Ticket, you have to get it through YouTube TV, which is essentially just
Wow.
another streaming platform that's an option for Americans. So what that tells me is exactly what you were talking about, which is exactly what people like Eddie Hearn and people like Bob Arum have realized, which is that we have to make avenues for people to watch this stuff on demand. We have to make avenues for people to watch this sports content digitally. And that's the reason why they're kind of slowly trying to, transition the people that want to watch that content to streaming. But obviously, it's disgruntling a lot of people, because people who watch the NFL are used to flicking on channel 2, flicking on channel
Exactly.
4, flicking on channel 7, and watching their 2 or 3 games every week. Well, now if you want to watch some games that are outside of your area, you can't do that through your cable box. You have to get it through YouTube TV.
Which then explains why because I knew that Americans were cutting the cord the last 5 years. I knew that conventional cable packages are on the decline, and that easily explains why ESPN might be losing eyes, because you're not just losing content, you're literally losing the base of people that may have come across your channel through basic cable packages. Well, now
Correct.
since those are in decline, you're in decline. So they're facing a problem, not exclusive or specific to boxing, to where when it's time for them to re-up on the content that they want, college football, I believe it is. It was either college football or college basketball or both when I read the article, that they may not have the money, because by the time that it's time to re-up, they will have lost so much revenue already. And that is a slightly different problem. The problem is interconnected, but it still is a slightly different problem than what Showtime was facing, because Showtime's problem, once again, for those that didn't catch it, it was content specific, whereas this problem is model specific. This basic cable model that you've been using to draw eyes to your platform, in a couple of years, it's going to be obsolete. It could be sooner than a couple of years, actually, because, and I've said this many times, Quentin, that when we were young, the cable companies were the channels themselves, they were competing with each other, but
Right.
they weren't competing with social media. They weren't competing with YouTube. That when we were young, well, no, YouTube damn sure wasn't what it wasn't then what it
Right.
is now. Now it's like an entity and a channel unto itself. And
Right.
channel surfing is not even what it was, that you don't really get spillover. And more specific to boxing, because we talk about a lot about boxing, obviously, that where you could have used spillover before to get eyes on a fight, whereas now people's attention is a lot more specific
Mm-hmm.
and a lot more fragmented,
Mm-hmm.
and the best you can get in terms of spillover is going viral. You know, like if you have a viral knockout or a viral soundbite on social media, because
Right.
the days of channel surfing, yeah, those days are over. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think the one thing that people have to kind of try to consider when they're talking about this whole Showtime thing, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it, but I listened to Dan Rayfield was on Chris Mannix's boxing podcast. I think he does one like once or twice a week. I listened to it a little bit of it on Thursday this past week. And he and Chris Mannix were kind of having an argument back and forth about the fact that Mannix's standpoint was that Showtime, if their boxing production team had better numbers on their programming, then they would have been absorbed and just transitioned over to Paramount. Dan Rayfield was kind of caping up for Showtime in the way that saying that, well, no, they were going to get axed regardless because the channel is being canceled. And my thing is, well, yes, the channel is being canceled, but anything that works can be just slid over, just like
thank
anything
you,
else.
thank you.
And to me, it's not that hard of a thing. I think Dan was kind of, and I don't know what his allegiances are at this point because I know that he's kind of working kind of as
A
not a
freelance
freelancer, but
journalist,
yeah,
yeah,
he's
freelance.
doing his own thing. He has his own website, so he's doing everything kind of a la carte to himself. But it just seemed like he was trying to mask over the reality, which is that if fighter purses were in check, if PBC was willing to make more of the in-house fights that were sitting right in front of them at the times and the opportunities when they had them, I think that there was an opportunity for them to still be with the same network and just being slid over to Paramount Plus. You can't
No,
tell.
but you're absolutely right that nobody's going to discard content, irrespective of whether Showtime gets phased out or not in the long run. No one is going to discard content that is making them money. So you hit the nail on the head that if the numbers were what Paramount wants them to be, which for those that don't know was within the 10% or above of the overall subscribership. Now, the last time I checked, and it may have declined, the overall subscribership was in the neighborhood of 28 million. And you've probably heard me do this equation
Mm-hmm.
that if you're bringing in on average between 200,000 and 400,000, what those numbers account for is literally less than 0% of the overall subscribership, which is
Right.
how I made the deduction that, oh my God, they're talking about boxing. Last year, I said, oh my, they're talking about cutting boxing. This is it. You know, the apocalypse is here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you do that equation and you say, okay, well, let's say that they were doing 10%, or let's say that they were doing better than 10%. Quentin, do you think they would have got the axe?
No, not at all. And the proof is in the pudding. If you just look at an example like Peacock, NBC is owned by Comcast, which also has a partnership with Sky Sports in the UK. They just agreed to do a simulcast deal, whether it's lucrative or not, we don't really know because that news didn't come out. But they invested some type of technological time into making space on their new app, Peacock, to allow Boxer to put streams here in the US for those that want to watch those fights, whether it's just a few people or a lot of people, here on their network. They feel like it's worth the investment. That tells me that there are still networks that want to do boxing, that want to show boxing. It's just at what price
Mm-hmm.
versus what quality of content they're going to get. And one of the things that I thought about that was kind of mind boggling to me, and this should have been a clear sign, and I know you've mentioned this before, is that once all the B level cards and above were slapped on pay per view, and you saw no B level, no A minus level fights on regular Showtime, that told me, oh, well, the network is not in belief that this is something that can actually work. And that
Yes.
started over a year ago when I believe it was New Year's Day when they put uh it wasn't Showtime that did it, but it was Ruiz against Ortiz.
It was
That was
Fox.
a that,
It
that
was
was a
Fox.
Fox pay-per-view, right? PBC is not getting the backing from them. And then as soon as you have the Showtime situation, you perfect example would be a Wilder versus Helenius fight. That fight does 1.5, 1.2, 900,000 views if it's on
Absolutely.
Showtime, but they
Absolutely.
put it on pay-per-view and it does 80,000 buys. Like, that's a waste of time.
And let me read the super chat. Shout out to my man LDBC's Most Wanted, who says, De lo mío, saludo, Vaquero versus Figueroa. Who do you got? I'll make it brief. I'm not a big believer in Brandon Figueroa's boxing or his power. His pressure fighting is really raw and crude. Vaquero, even though he doesn't look it to some people, he is actually a more refined pressure fighter than Brandon Figueroa by and large. So in a fight like that, that's a gunfight. Who's got the bigger guns in a gun show? For me, it's Vaquero. He's more durable, better engine, better power, better angles, better everything. I go Emmanuel Navarrete by way of knockout. Quentin, to your point, that's what I've been saying all along, that it's the decision making that in order to satisfy the egos of the fighters and their managers and what they believe that their market value is, you sacrificed content at the box office that should have been on the regular channel. And the only reason I can think of you might have done that, because it's really stupid, is maybe it's because they weren't giving you the money, so you had no choice but to put it on pay-per-view, which kind of starts this vicious cycle that, by all rights, if Gervonta Davis is fighting Hector Garcia, well, you could probably draw over 1 million eyes regular Showtime with that fight. But if you put it behind a paywall, no, you're sacrificing eyes to get him money that he's probably not even good for. You know what I mean? Because you're putting it on pay-per-view in the hopes that the fans are going to buy it. And then when a lot of fans don't buy it, you lose those eyes, you lose that notoriety, and at the same time, you're not making very much money to begin with, because the numbers that they put out there, I know you're not dumb, I'm not dumb, those numbers are fudged. They're fudged. But even if I go with those numbers, that's not much anyway. It's not much money anyway. With 200,000 pay-per-view buys. What they fucking do?
Right. I think the thing that, like, in the grand scheme of things, is really it's a two-part issue that kind of led to this point for PBC to be in a situation where they're now kind of scrambling for a broadcast deal, because their deal is going to be up in less than 2 months now, or a little over 2 months, excuse me. Is not being able to tell your fighters, no, we're not paying you that. This is what you can take, or we can cut you loose. And then secondly, okay, we'll pay you that, but you're going to have to fight an equal level fighter to yourself. That's the one thing I've seen, and it's not just with PBC, but it's been exasperated with them, because all of their big name fighters end up being put on pay-per-view.
Yes.
All of their big name fighters, anybody that's even a B plus level guy, a B level guy, their fight ends up being on pay-per-view, and it's not even against somebody of equal measure. A guy who I thought that is a perfect example of this is Keith Thurman.
Yes.
Keith Thurman is a guy who has had many opportunities to, get back into the title race, right? But for whatever his reasoning is, he wants either too much money, or he wants an easier touch before he takes that kind of a fight. And if I'm trying to provide content to my platform, what I have to explain to Keith is, look, man, I can give you 1 million. I can give you 2 million guarantee. And if you win this fight, I get you set up for a title shot on pay-per-view against X champion after that. But the issue is that they're too scared to say that, because they don't want to lose the guys they have. So then those guys end up not fighting. And then when they finally do get out and fight, they've been out for 15 or 16 months. I mean,
lost all market value.
We look at this year alone, right? We look at guys like Spence. We look at a guy like Danny Garcia. We look at a guy like Keith Thurman. We look at a guy like Stephen Fulton, who was a unified champion. Then that's a whole nother conversation. But guys who hold titles, how are the sanctioning bodies not pushing these promoters and pushing these networks to put these guys back on the ring, put them in the ring, or strip their titles? We have to be honest with the situation and know that the longer a guy stays inactive, the less money you're making on the belt anyway.
And the less marquee, you see, I'm very cynical when I see those situations, and I have no reservations about saying that they're being paid to allow the champion to hold those belts, that belt or those belts, free of mandatories. Because when you look at the Jamal Charlo situation, what other explanation is there? You guys paid them to hold off the mandatories so he would be allowed to hold on to that belt. It's very obvious, and he's not the only one you did this with. And that's why the alphabets are doing that. That if you ask me, why are they not ordering mandatories for this fighter and this fighter and this fighter? Oh, because you're being paid not to. The sanctioning fees that you're missing out on, you're getting them back in the form of bribes. It's very obvious, right? And nobody really polices these sanctioning bodies anyway, like honestly. So that explains that. But as far as the detriment to the sport and the detriment to the fighters themselves, their inability or unwillingness to get these fighters out there on a regular schedule, well, their marquee value plummets as a result of that. There was a time when you could easily get 1 million eyes on a Keith Thurman fight. Easily. There was a time. That was about 5, 6, 7 years ago.
like
that if
2016, 2017, 2018, yeah.
You definitely would have got 1 million eyes on a Keith Thurman fight, but bro, those days are over. They put you on pay-per-view with Barrios next to nobody bought it, and nobody cared, and nobody's going to. And all these fighters have suffered for that. He's not the only one. Danny Garcia's name used to matter. You know, yeah, his name used to matter. Adrian Broner's name used to matter. That's a mixed bag with him. It's not just inactivity, it's underperforming. Though all the same, that what I see happened, which you mentioned, it's almost like you're not willing to tell these guys, Brody, you're not worth that. Now, if you would have told them that and you would have gave them that tough love, that listen, we don't have that for you. But you know what you could do? You think you worth that? Go out there and get it. Now, why didn't they want to resort to that? DAZN. Remember, when they first broke into the American market, they were hunting for American talent to break through. So they would have happily overpaid these fighters that think they're supposed to get 7 figures every time they get out there.
Offering that too. And that leads me to another thing. I want to know, what kind of paperwork does Al have on some of these guys that they turned down some of these fights that were being offered to them at the time that they were offered to him? I mean, the crazy thing to me is like a guy like what's the dude, the Polish dude from New York? I don't know why I can't think of his name. The heavyweight.
Oh, you talking about Adam Kovnowski? Adam
Kovnowski, right? He ends up fighting on a DAZN card anyway, 3 years or 4 years too late.
After they didn't
the Anthony Joshua fight in 2019, where he would have made what, 7, 8, 9 million plus pay-per-view revenue.
That's not even the only one. They offered him a 7-figure Derek Chisora fight, which he turned down to fight Ali Demirezen for less money. And he honestly, it's a cautionary tale. And you know that a lot of people get mad at me for bringing up these things. That like, look, I just see another I just see another crook in Al Heyman, honestly. And the reason I think these things happen the way they do is where normally the manager is supposed to act as a buffer between the promoter and the fighter. These managers are working in tandem with Al and doing Al's bidding, that if I don't want that fighter to go over there, he's not going over there. Because the situation you mentioned with Anthony Joshua, that they wanted to use him, you know, back when he still had the belts and he was unbeaten, it was Keith Connolly, Adam's manager, who said, oh, no, he can't go over there. We already have an arrangement for him to fight on FS1. That was the initial, that's what he said in the very beginning, the week it all happened. And it's like, well, wait a minute, what the hell could you be doing that's bigger than fighting for $5 or $6 million and 3 alphabet titles? What could you be doing? And you know what it was? The Chris Areola fight.
Well, just listen to the sentence or his response and what you just said. He can't fight Anthony Joshua in a prime fight, Anthony Joshua's American debut. That, if people remember this too, people have forgotten about this. Anthony Joshua did a New York City media press tour where he went to literally every radio station. He was on First Take. He was on literally everything promoting his American debut. You couldn't have that fight because you had a fight on FS1. FS1, for those that don't know, is a secondary channel. It's not even a part of your basic cable package if you still have one. It's something you have to get as an add-on in your secondary sports channels. It's like ESPN News. It's ESPN news. That's what it is. It's not even like it's on Fox regular network. It's their secondary channel where they just put their sports talk shows. So
When I highlighted this, bro, I felt like it was lost on so many people that they just can't see the forest through the trees. That do you realize what you've done to this guy? Do you and people didn't realize it for hate of Anthony Joshua or hate of Eddie Hearn. They really couldn't decipher what kind of business Heyman really has been doing. That Brody, and trying to satisfy your broadcast partners to keep content on your side, you have just costed this man life-altering money.
mhm,
His career is ruined because of the decisions you've made as his advisor.
right.
He's not going to get $5 or $6 million now unless he
Never.
hits the fucking lottery.
Never again. And so, when you think about the whole situation, that's why, and I know I'd like to just turn this conversation because I didn't get to really ask you about what you thought about it. But you saw the back and forth on the poll that I did earlier this week, where I put it out to everybody that would listen, that, from both sides of things, people that are, fans of PBC and people that are maybe not so much fans of PBC. Which option is realistically a better deal? PBC teaming up with DAZN and kind of making a home of boxing, home of global boxing, kind of an alliance, right? Where you have three major promoters all having their fights on the same channel. And the blowback that I got on a regular basis was, that can't work because of the dates. Okay, just put it in perspective. There's 52 Saturdays a year. Eddie's going to have at least 15 to 20 of his shows in the UK. That means a 5 p.m. time slot, which would walk right into a PBC or a Golden Boy card, just like they do now. They just did it this past Saturday. Those that wanted to watch the Jack Catterall versus Jorge Linares fight, they watched that fight around 5 p.m. And boom, right after that, the Golden Boy card started literally 10 or 15 minutes right after. So that part can't be what it is. What it really is, I think, is that it will then expose the difference in quality between the fighters between each stable. See, as long as PBC is on an isolated network, there's very rarely any opportunities for other promoters' fighters to fight them or be obligated to fight them. We've had numerous examples of PBC guys who were either mandated or were in a mandatory slot to fight a guy from another network or from another promoter, and they either turn it down or they had to go against the grain to go and fight that guy. And typically what happens? They
We know.
lose. They lose. They're 0 for 3 this year, and that's just in 2023.
And from a consumer perspective, which is always the perspective that I come at this from, because it's the only way it matters to me, to you, to all of us as boxing fans, is wouldn't it be value for money if you were getting 3 different brands of boxing on one platform for one monthly fee or one annual fee? One platform, not DAZN and ESPN and Showtime and Peacock and all this fucking bullshit. It would be better for all of us. But what I believe is that anybody that tells you that they don't want PBC to go to DAZN, in all likelihood, you're stealing. How do I know? Because mathematically, what you're proposing doesn't make sense.
Right.
It saves you money if they go to a platform that's already showing boxing. It saves you money. Why wouldn't you want to save money? You're saying you want them to be isolated on Amazon so that we can get more of the same?
Yeah.
More of the same fragmented boxing, more of the same platform and promotional issues. If they were to go to DAZN, that many more fights are possible. And don't forget, while there's 52 Saturdays in a calendar year, there are also 52 Fridays. The resurgence of Friday night fights, the resurgence of Thursday night fights. That could be the global home of boxing for every boxing fan on the planet. And some people actually look at that as a bad thing. Like, how is that bad? How?
Yeah. And one of the funny things I saw too that was a response was, well, DAZN doesn't know how to promote fights. Well, DAZN is a network. If you don't like the fights that are already on DAZN, what effect would that have on PBC going there? They have their own promoter. They have their own fighters. They'll probably have their own broadcast team if they really wanted one. Eddie got to have his own broadcast team, and he got to select the guys he wants to do his fights and do his media and do his his pre-fight during the week workouts and all that kind of stuff. So it's not unfeasible. The reality is that those guys who wanted to talk mess about DAZN, that wanted to say, our guys don't fight on apps, dead zone, dead zone, dead zone, they would have to now save face because now all of their favorite fighters are fighting on this app that they were just criticizing less than 5 years ago. And that's the truth of the matter.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
the
reason they
reality.
don't want them to go to somewhere else, because
Because
they're
it's
going to go on an app
acquiescing to
either way.
defeat.
They're going to go.
It would be an if they went there, it would be an acquiescence of defeat because they didn't see the rising tide. You know that 5 years ago, the platform was ridiculed. Who's gonna box on an app? Now you motherfuckers would be lucky if you could box on an app because Showtime is finished in this business. And I caught a lot of heat. I got a lot of hate for saying that. Yeah, the end is near. The end is nigh. And I came across this article that I think many Americans haven't seen. I'll post it here. That in certain territories, the distributor of this show is DAZN. The same Bob Arum, the same Frank Warren that were ridiculing, if you read through the article, the same Bob Arum that was ridiculing DAZN, the same Frank Warren that was ridiculing DAZN, you guys are actually happy that they are the distributor for your show to reach those markets that ESPN can't reach, to reach those markets that TNT can't reach, because these are not global streaming platforms. Yeah, ESPN is big, we know that, but they're not a global streaming platform, and neither is TNT. So the fact that this mega fight that, I thought nobody watched DAZN. If nobody watches DAZN, why are you going to them for help?
Right.
Common sense argument, and I think that a lot of it is just the childish behavior of a few who don't understand what's happening. If you're old enough and you've been around, you saw 8-tracks turn into cassettes and cassettes turn into CDs and CDs turn into MP3s and MP3s turn into streaming platforms, you'll know what's happening. It's a changing of the mediums and a changing of the guard, right? That's what it really is. It's just evolution. It happens. But the fact that you guys couldn't see it then, that streaming is the future, man. It's the future. You thought conventional cable packages were the future? What are you, a dinosaur?
Yeah, man. It's not a hard thing to understand when you just look at just the way that everybody is consuming, their content. Like, just myself personally, having cable, I think I had a cable box up until like 2017. I think I had Dish Network. I paid $50 a month for it, so it wasn't really anything that was a hard decision to make. But once I moved to an area where Dish was not available. And I went without it and said, hey, I just want to see how it goes. If I feel like I'm missing out on something, I'll get whatever cable is offered where I moved to, and and I'll go back. But I never had a reason to go back because I got, 10 to 12 subscriptions that I subscribe to. I pick and choose what I want to watch. And if it's something live that I need to see, then I either find a way to either watch it on one of those, or I dip in for a month and dip out if it's something specific I want to watch that I don't already have. So, DAZN is clearly the best option if you're truly a boxing fan that wants to see the best fights happen. Everybody's been begging for more cross promotion. Everybody's been saying, oh, well, this guy won't fight that guy. And, oh, well, this guy, he won't fight that guy. And this girl, she won't fight this girl. Whatever the situation is, a lot of that could be nullified if some type of an agreement was made. But this is a proof right here. The article you showed proves to me that DAZN is willing to work with anyone. They're willing to work with anyone.
They always were. They always were. And I just, for me, it's jarring how childish Americans and the American fan base for sports can be. It's actually jarring because you would have thought you said something about somebody's mother, or just like, fam, this is where technology is going. This is where conventional television is dead. And I've been saying that for a long time. And it's like I was speaking another language, that the idea that people are going to keep buying cable packages for all these channels they don't even watch at this set price, that's ridiculous. Because like you, I used myself as an example. Brody, I don't want to pay for all them channels. I only want to pay for what I watch: movies and boxing. That's it. I don't want all that. I don't need MTV. I don't need the History Channel. I don't need the Cooking Network. I don't need that shit. I don't watch that shit. Well, I don't watch that shit. and you only watch what I pay for. So, all right.
But nah, man, you make a great point because I mean, in an ideal situation, right? And that's why you got these bundle deals going on. You got Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, Hulu, right? They all are offering, and that's the other thing. A lot of these platforms now are offering live TV within their app if you subscribe.
Yep.
Peacock is doing that. Um, uh, ESPN Plus is doing that. What's the other one that I'm trying to think of?
And I'm gonna give you a forecast because I want to get it out there before anybody else does. Everything happens in cycles. So it's like the precession of the planet, for those that know what precession is. It goes back and forth. People aren't aware of it, but it goes back and forth. It sways, right? Well, these types of changes, they also go back and forth. Right now, what is being promoted is division until there is enough division to promote unity, basically, of these platforms. That where right now the American populace is leaning towards only paying specifically for what they want. That's going to go on for a while. And then after a while, bundles and cable packages or streaming packages, that's going to become the new thing, which is going to resemble the cable packages.
Yeah.
Just give it a few. That's how it's going to go. It goes back and forth.
Yeah.
Back and just like that. That's what it's going to be. But right now, everything is content specific.
Yeah, that's a great example you make there because I think about, even stuff like we used to have my family, we used to have a Showtime subscription, and then Paramount came out and they had a Paramount subscription. I didn't have Paramount, but when I found out, oh, you're gonna put the two together? Oh, okay, well I can get that now because that's a value for me. That's something that's gonna be viable for me. But if you spin this all the way back to the first conversation you were having about sports rights, I can guarantee you this. If you look at what DAZN provides to other countries' subscribers, whether it's the NFL, you can watch on DAZN in Canada, you can watch it on DAZN in the UK. I promise you, these major sports networks, something outside of just boxing, because that's the one thing that I keep hearing from detractors of DAZN is that, oh, well, all they do is boxing. All they do is boxing. That's not going to be of value to everyone else that wants to subscribe. We can get it another network that has Thursday Night Football and boxing, which is the argument that people are making for PBC to get a deal with Amazon Prime. I can promise you that when those deals are up and there's TV right opportunities, DAZN will try to get some of them because DAZN is a sports network. They don't care what sports it is. They're just trying to get some rights. It's just that those rights have not been available. So the only thing that Americans can watch on DAZN is boxing. But in other countries, DAZN subscribers can watch multiple different kinds of sports. And that's the idea, is that they want to try to do something very similar to ESPN here. It's just they haven't been able to have the opportunity to do it yet.
And with ESPN being as vulnerable as it is, which is where we started, ESPN, I don't know if they are anymore, but I know that for a very long time they were the biggest sports network in the country.
Still are. Currently.
Perhaps they still are, right? Perhaps they still are. But they're in a very vulnerable place because they can't pay for the content they're intended to show, which is a slightly different problem than a Showtime. That basically what happened at Showtime is that for the 37 years that they were in boxing, good, bad, or otherwise, whatever anybody thinks, it was still an oddity to have a channel that primarily focuses on story-based programming to also show sports. Showtime is not a sports network. They never were. It wasn't ABC's Wide World of Sports. That was not really their target and where the bulk of their subscribers were coming from. They were not sports fans. They were people that were there for movies and dramas and TV shows and a small percentage for sports. That is a different situation than what ESPN is going through, because ESPN isn't saying, well, no, we want to give up college football because it's not bringing us the numbers that we want. That's not what they're saying. They're saying that we're losing eyes in droves because the model is obsolete. So when the time comes, we're not going to be able to afford the content we normally show. It's a different problem. Those two issues are interconnected because it all pertains to Americans cutting the cord. However, this is content specific. This is model specific. That this model ESPN may go with the dinosaurs. Unfortunately, they might let somebody come in and save them and buy them or something. I heard that DAZN was a potential buyer. That was weeks ago, though. That
Well,
Disney
we
Disney
already
wants to
know.
sell them.
Yeah, we already know that the relationship is there because of the Fury and Ngannou, the Jake Paul fights that have been shown on ESPN Plus. Uh, the relationship is established that ESPN now is open to soliciting some of their content to DAZN to be distributed. I think the one thing that people have to try to understand is that you have to get out of the frame of thinking from a boxing standpoint. You have to get out of the frame of thinking, what do I like from an allegiance to a promoter? And start thinking more about what do I like from a perspective of the fights I'm going to get. Because I'm going to do this later this week, and I haven't had a chance to do it. But I'm going to sit and I'm going to make a list of all of the potential fights that could happen if PBC was to be on the same platform with a Golden Boy, with a Matchroom. And I think people are going to be surprised. Some of those fights are probably not going to happen just because of the fact that it's a politics thing. But the potential is there. As long as these fighters and these promoters remain separated by network exclusivity, most of the fights will never happen that we really, really want to see. Or you're going to have to jump through a million hoops just to get some of those fights. And the perfect example of that is the two biggest fights that we had this year when we talk about Ryan Garcia versus Tank Davis, and then the Spence versus Crawford fight. Both of those fights took way longer than they should because it's fighters on separate networks. It's fighters that aren't represented by the same promotional company. And so that's the main issue that boxing is facing. It's not that people don't want to watch boxing. It's just the fact that the fights that we need to see in a timely fashion are not happening. And a lot of that has to do with the
The
platform
national.
separation.
It's the national. It's the delay of the natural progression of a sport. That imagine you got a football season, but there's no Super Bowl. Well, that doesn't fucking happen. Okay,
Yeah.
there's a baseball season. There's no World Series. Yeah, that doesn't happen. In the NBA, there's no playoffs this season. Yeah, that doesn't happen. But boxing seems to have an issue like that. That how much longer do you plan on making people wait? And what makes you think that every halfway decent fight needs to be marinated when many of them, in fact, most of them, don't? They don't need to be. You didn't need to marinate Plant versus Benavidez. That's fucking ridiculous. That Gary Russell and Leo Santa Cruz never fought, yeah, that's fucking ridiculous. Leo Santa Cruz fights Abner Mares 2 times. He doesn't fucking fight Gary once. That's fucking stupid. That's a situation in-house that could have and should have happened that would have brought eyes to the Showtime platform. But whatever decisions were made over there, that fight didn't materialize. And the blame is on Heyman. The blame is on Espinoza, especially Espinoza, because if you let him run wild, he's going to run wild. It looks like to me, and I've said this before, Quentin, that to me it looks like, what, are you getting your marching orders from Al? Because that's not the way that's supposed to be.
You're supposed
The
to be
budget,
his boss.
you're supposed to be his, in a manner of speaking, that the budget that Heyman uses comes from the people that employ you. Heyman doesn't employ you. They employ you. So you're supposed to be able to go to him and say, you better do whatever you have to do to deliver this fight, or those two guys can go away. We don't need the dead weight, because what I believe happened to them is you're carrying too much dead weight. Lara, Danny, Thurman, Gary, fucking that Mongolian prospect. You just got a bunch of guys sitting around thumbing their ass, not doing nothing. What is the point?
And the interesting thing that people that people are going to have to really keep a close eye on moving forward is that if Al's paperwork is not in order now, because currently he's going through a gray area with no network deal. If you remember, this is the same way that Jai Opataya was able to get out of his promotional deal,
Yes, it
because
was
his promoter didn't have a network deal. Eddie said in multiple interviews this weekend that he's already been hearing from some PBC fighters about having interest in crossing over and getting a new promotional deal with a new company. And if Al doesn't have a network deal in hand with dates already lined up, by the time that this Showtime deal is over, I think that there's going to be some legal precedents for some of these guys to leave the PBC island, so to speak, and go somewhere else.
I was gonna do a segment on that. That the structure of the deals, I don't know what the structure of their deals are, but I do
Hell,
imagine
the fighters don't know.
I imagine that at least some are contingent upon the ability to deliver something that you can no longer deliver because you don't have a broadcast partner. So in that window that you don't have a broadcast partner between this year and next year, they can float. And they might have, the other thing is they might have to, because I don't know how long it's going to take him to, I don't know. And the Amazon thing, every rumor I heard, which I've said a million times, the only rumors I've been hearing from the very beginning, which all the rumors I've heard seem to be true, but as far as the Amazon rumors, you're talking about a distribution deal of pay-per-views not dissimilar from what we already see on Fight. You see how sometimes Fight shows their stuff? That's the kind of deal that the rumors are saying, which is not an annual budget, which is not a multi-year commitment, which is what your fighters need because they need fight dates.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that that's going to be the tell. Is like, how long does a deal take to get done? Because, and I said this, and I probably undershot it when I said it on Twitter, aka X now, whatever it's called.
Right.
They need at least 100 million a year, and that's not even enough. Because if you think about it, if you're paying one guy, let's just say, I don't know, if you pay Tank Davis, let's say you pay him for 2 fights, you pay him $5 million each fight. Well, that's 10% of your budget already gone, and you haven't paid any undercard, you haven't paid any overhead, you haven't paid any other fights, any other fight dates. So you're going to need in excess of $100 million annually to get all of the fighters that you have out at least once a year. And those kinds of deals don't get done in 6 weeks. Those
Absolutely.
kinds of deals.
I mean, I'll say this, Quentin. I'll say this, Quentin. It depends on, because if it's Canelo, right, and I know you had him in mind, if you're saying that, okay, well, you need an excess of 100 million because Canelo's guaranteed approximately 40 every single fight, you know, right? You say that, but remember that he can bring the money back. So it's not 40 mil that you never get back, that the operational costs are not covered. He'll bring you the 40 back and then some. You see what I mean?
No, I'm not even including Canelo in my consideration for this, because it still remains to be seen if Canelo, which I understand his deal is with Al, but he's going to be in the same scenario that the other fighters we are talking about are in, where I'm assuming that his deal was contingent upon having a platform to put his pay-per-views on. If Al doesn't have a deal to put his platform pay-per-views on anywhere, then Canelo might be able to say, well, I don't need you anymore to have access to your fighters because you don't have a network deal that binds them to only fighting here. I can go out and subsidize my own deal and have them come over if I want them to come over.
And that's beautiful, because Eddie Hearn, I hope you're listening. It's time to, because this is the time to be that shark. This is the time that they're vulnerable and they're weak. Listen, I'm a customer before I'm anything, and I just want to see fights. I don't care who's putting them on. So if you're Eddie Hearn, now's the time to start making phone calls, or get Frank to make the goddamn phone calls that, listen, we can do the fight. We can do it here. Do you want to wait this out with Al? You want to wait a couple of weeks? You want to wait a couple of months while he sorts it out? Or do you want to know when you're fighting? Do you want to know? Because that's a big thing for fighters. Knowing when you're going to fight. Yes, that's a big deal, because that's knowing when you're going to work, when you're going to get paid.
No doubt.
I don't think Al could tell anybody that right now. You know?
Nah, not yet. But I will say this. I think it's going to be real interesting. We are going to be watching, obviously, to see what they do next. But if I'm anybody's advisor, if I'm giving anybody any advice at this point, is to be open-minded and be willing to take whatever's on the table as quick as you can, because there's no definitive mark that's going to say that this Amazon Prime thing is even going to pan out, because those guys that are not pay-per-view fighters, they may not even get any of those dates. But I got to go, man. Good talking to you, man, and I'll catch up to you next time, bro.
No problem, bro. Thanks for coming on. We got Drew in the building, Leo in the building. And yeah, you know, I wanted to go live. I was going to save all of this for a segment, but I decided, no, I'll just use it to shoot the shit really quick. That the distributor for this pay-per-view in other territories outside of the United Kingdom and outside of the United States just so happens to be DAZN, which heralds their expanse globally, which is what I was telling people about for a very long time. I was telling people that they're catering to 178, between 178 and 200 markets. ESPN doesn't do that, okay? TNT or BT or whatever the hell they're called, they don't do that. So if you think that the domestic market is better than the global market, you just got to be some special kind of fucking stupid. Because here are two of the people who were ridiculing DAZN, and I invite any of you, go read the article. Bob is happy they're using DAZN. Frank is happy they're using DAZN. Turkey a la Sheik is happy they're using DAZN. Yeah, because ESPN can't get this fight to all those different markets. TNT can't get this fight to all those different markets. Their reach has exceeded yours, but you were the guys laughing at them.
Hey,
Can't
Jules,
make it up, man.
Didn't you say that Al took like a number of Oscars fighters back in the day?
200 of them, country.
Yeah, see, well, if he could do that, other people could do that too, and it's coming around. See, that's the thing.
Oh no, you're not, bro. You are so right that you don't even. That's kind of how I see it. That what he did was wrong, right? And I'm not a stickler for the rules. It's a cutthroat world, but it's just funny how things happened because you stole those fighters and you really weren't able to make any of them into very much. You know, I mean, really, who's the top drawing guy right now? It's not one of your guys. It's that Canelo kid. The one guy who stayed with Golden Boy just so happens to be the one guy that ended up being a huge draw on the Forbes list, all the crazy shit. Whereas your guys, that whole crop almost went bad. Practically the whole crop.
Yep.
It's funny how things happen.
You know what I never understood from the moment they all started ganging up on DAZN. I never understood it's an app. Nobody watches it. I never understood that angle because
you're young.
No, because I understand that they want to shit on it, publicly, but it's like an app is not much different than a website, bro. People can go on a website and subscribe to, Showtime, right? You subscribing to Showtime is not much different than you going on an app.
Michael, you did not understand the ramblings of the old because you are the future. Very simple. To a young person, this is why people need to listen to Michael when he talks. Because Michael is the next generation.
I'm the smartest guy out here.
Easily, dog. Like, I can't even say shit. Easily.
Honestly,
No, but honestly,
than all of you
Lord, here we
bro,
go.
you could roll us all in a burrito and we don't know as much as Michael. It's just that simple, bro.
I cannot disagree with that.
No, but seriously, when Michael says that to him, there's no distinction between an ordinary channel and an app, that's what these old people need to understand. Maybe you get lost with apps, you know what I mean? Because you're fucking old and some things are lost on you. But to a young person, there literally is no distinction. No, if something is on an app, that doesn't mean that a young person isn't going to watch it. They use apps all day. Instagram is an app. X is an app. Facebook is an app. You think young people don't use apps? All they use are apps. They're watching less and less television and using apps more and more. So who you saw ridiculing the DAZN app were a bunch of old men.
Yep.
They were old man. Jules, real quick though, but you're an old man, but you don't get lost finding the right hole.
Because I'm from space.
And you use the right thrust.
And I keep it long.
Yo.
Oh,
Wait. So 5 minutes in, y'all all really want to do the gay shit, bro. Like, can we?
What are you talking about? We waited 60 minutes for the gay innuendos.
I was waiting for Michael to come on before I'd keep it long and loose and on the outside.
Niggas gay, bro.
Oh man.
Something you want to tell us, Julius, bro?
No, bro. I'm just look. You gotta just use the jab, bro. You gotta use the jab.
Come out already, bro. Just come out.
Look. In all seriousness. But this is what I meant. That the way that they were talking, it was almost like they was on a different planet. Because if you ask a young person of Michael's age group, they know how to use apps. If you tell them to go to an app to see a boxing match, They're not going to get fucking confused. They use apps all day. So you saw old people from the previous generation laughing like Bob, like Stefan Espinoza, and all of those flunkies on Showtime. Like, y'all sound crazy talking down apps when it's very obvious that most of the youth, all they use is apps, fam. That's all they use. So what are you talking about? And
Leo, can I say something?
Go ahead, Leo.
Look, I think there is one legit criticism you can make against the song. And okay, this is an app, and it's an ambitious app because it live streams sports events. So if your infrastructure, I'm talking about the servers, the hardware is not on point, you're gonna have troubles. You're gonna have. But if you're talking about promotional issues that you don't like the song's promotion of the fights, look, if you're a fan of the sport, that conversation is a nonsensical conversation, because if your platform is willing to give you the fight that you want, you're gonna go to where the fight is being made. There's no question.
Exactly.
If
Doesn't
Tyson
matter
Fury,
the platform.
doesn't matter if you are a boxing fan. Now, if you are I don't know, these managers or these fan promoters that are worried about the growing of the sport, no, you have to choose another platform besides the song, because the song is not there. Why does it matter to you? If there were, if
Well,
PBC
Leo,
goes to
I think it's important to make this distinction too, that a lot of the people that you see that actually get all caught up in that conversation, which platform this, which platform that, as bizarre, I know it's gonna sound crazy, especially to Michael that's in Canada and Leo that's in Chile, but Americans are so petty that they will sit there and argue about
Bro,
this
I'm
when they're.
American.
Listen to me. Americans will sit there and argue about this when they're not even paying for the content. They're literally stealing it. A lot of these people that you see on Twitter that actually argue about this, it doesn't matter what platform it's on because you're stealing it, dog. You're literally stealing it. It could be on DAZN, it could be on Showtime, it could be on the fucking History Channel, PBC on the History Channel. What do you care? You're stealing it anyway. But they will sit there, tooth to bone, arguing with you about this shit because that is how petty a lot of these guys are. A lot of these guys don't even belong at the table of this conversation.
it is just pettiness or is something else, because maybe if the fights goes to the song, they are more difficult to stream in other platforms and another illegal mediums. Maybe that's it. Because if you're still in the fucking fight, why doesn't matter to you where the fight happens? Go. I don't understand why.
Like, hey, bro,
It's just being.
they're in love with.
No, it's just being petty for the sake of it.
I'm
It's
telling you
just
that, bro, before I pass it back, well, one, let me read this super chat. Shout out to my man, Mr. Calderon, that said, yo, to add to the younger crowd being on apps, no lie. I hate not being able to watch what I want when I want, and watching TV feels off to me. That's what I'm saying, that as a the way that things are going now, right? Watching television, I don't really watch television anymore. Either I go to a movie that I want to see and I see it when I want to see it, or I don't use television. The days of just channel surfing and all of that, those days are over. People only really watching now specifically what they want to watch. So that all that stuff from the past, yeah, that's the past, bro. Waiting for Showtime boxing to come on. That's the past, bro. That's antiquity now.
The only thing we want to wait for is going to the movies. That's the only thing. Well, okay, that's the schedule. That's it.
Exactly.
At home, it's like, nah, bro. I need it. It's called DTC, direct to consumer. That's how we want the content now. And Jules, we've been talking about this for. Remember, I showed you that article.
Ages.
I showed you that article about ESPN wanting to sell them because the money's low and everything.
Well, again, and I definitely have to do an episode of the Relay, because I've touched on it on at least 2 lives now, but I do feel like people are going to need to understand the difference in the problem. The problem is interconnected, but there's a difference. There's a slight difference that's very important. and it's that Showtime's issue with boxing and leaving boxing, that was content specific. ESPN's issue is model specific. It's not that you want to discard this content. It's that the model you've been using, it's becoming obsolete. You're losing eyes that you used to get from basic cable packages. It's not even that your content is bad. It's just that the model you've been using, the model you've relied on that got you all these eyes in the first place, now it's failing. And those people are streaming, you know, that they're going to wherever they're going for content, whatever they want. So now you're suffering for it. And when it's time to re-up, you may not have enough money to buy those rights. It's a different problem that's fueled by more or less the same thing.
Who has the money to buy those rights, and what app did those Saudi people invest in? What app? Honestly,
don't get it twisted. DAZN is there. Amazon is also there. YouTube is also there. The world is changing, bro. Look, when I was a kid, there was something called Woolworth. They went under, you know. There was
Montgomery
Wards, Eckerd Pharmacies, Circus City, Radio Shack. There's things that they were huge for Blockbuster. Tower, what was it? Yeah, Tower Records. Tower Records used to be huge.
Toys R Us, bro.
The warehouse.
Toys R Us. There were things that they were huge corporations when we were young, but eventually they come to an end, and that's where cable is going. You know, that's a middleman now. That's cable's a middleman, bro. Once all these guys get on they stream and shit, they're not gonna need cable. It'll be direct to consumer. So, and that's where it is.
Cable used to be a thing. That used to be what every household wanted. Cable to watch
and I
channel you want.
I laughed. I know you laughed at it too. We all laughed at the arrogance of like, who's gonna go on an app from even Bob and Frank Warren and all these guys. Like, not just the PBC.
Let me say this, Drew. Let me say this. I think that when people saw them laugh, they didn't realize that this is the equivalent of talking to Dev Sani about a Queensberry fighter. When you see them laugh, you better laugh it off. You better laugh it off. You have to, because this threatens you. This app threatens you. You have to say what you're saying. You have to. But in reality, you represent the past. And that I got as much flack and pushback for what I'm saying. I'm like, look at where we are now. Where are all the people that told me that DAZN would go under and Showtime would be the one that sticks around? Where did they all go? You know where some of them went? No, you know, some of them stopped covering boxing. I checked. A lot of these guys are boxing channels. Where'd all you go? I thought you loved boxing. What happened? And listen, I'm gonna tell you another thing. Expect more of that. Because a lot of these channels that have relied on divisiveness, racism, bigotry, race baiting, a lot of y'all gonna go under. There's not a place for you in the current marketplace, the boxing market. There's no place for you at that table. The stuff you normally was making you money, it's about to be over for that. Give it another 2 years. Yeah, it's about to be over for that. That shit only worked because you were supporting specific fighters that you could peddle that crap with. Those fighters are on their way out now. What are you going to do?
And you don't cover the sport to know the new fighters.
You can't turn Junto Nakatani into, you can't do that with Junto Nakatani. I'm just telling you that in the landscape that we're now approaching, what's on the horizon, right? And the new crop of fighters, well, you can't even try to pull that crap with some of these guys. You can't. So where you might have been able to do that with a Wilder situation or a Spence situation, right? Yeah, those days are about to be over. What are you going to do? You better start watching them flyweights. You know, you better. I did a video, the one I just uploaded, that the welterweight landscape is about to change in a huge way. It's an open book now, okay? And Al Heyman doesn't control it anymore. Once Terrence Crawford relinquishes those belts, Boots will get the IBF, but Boots is not a Heyman fighter until further notice. Stanionis will get the BA, but you're on an island, bro. You ain't worth no money. Santillán, he's in line for the BO. Santillán is in line for the BO, and I'm sure Bob Arum and all his fucking wisdom will know what to do. You know?
And you got Josh Taylor go up there, Josh grab a belt. And Jules, don't you find it poetic justice, though, that... And I see Alexis trolling everybody. Bob Arum and Frank Warren need DAZN to be in the black for this Fury and Ngannou fight.
Well, that's why I can't talk to Alexis sometimes, because he has arguments in bad faith where, look, I'm just telling you what's out there. You got people that they don't want to tell you what's out there. They don't even want to talk about it. How many posts from Alexis have you seen where he's telling you that they're using DAZN? They have to reach markets that ESPN can't reach, to reach markets that TNT, does he even know that it's called TNT now? To reach markets that TNT can't reach, that where you thought it's just an app with a few followers that nobody watches, then explain to me, why does Bob need to use it to get this fight out there?
Why did they need it to cover their nut?
Fucking silly, man. Shout out the best pit bull breeder. Crawford taking all the belts at 154. I want to see him versus Tim. Same for me, bro. Everybody's talking this silly ass Boots fight. If I got to pick, look, if he's not fighting Canelo next, give me Crawford versus Zoo for the BO. I need that fight. I love that fight.
100%.
Jules, you already see some of these guys. You know, you had that argument with Spoonie or Spoogie or whatever that guy's name is.
Spooky, yeah. Shout out to Spooky.
Whatever his name is, you saw the fact that he already is pivoting toward like, well, now Crawford doesn't want to fight Boots and he's the truth. You're going to see these guys. You were talking about how their platforms are going to die. All they're going to do is they're going to pivot on to the new victimhood or the new problem or the new great fighter or something else. These guys don't care about boxing. This is not boxing related. This is literally about something deeper inside of them, and this is just a vessel they have to use to get it.
I've always said that they use it as a channel. They use it as a vehicle for their own hate of other people. All you're doing is projecting all they're doing is projecting the hate they have in here outwards and accusing the people outwards of it, when really it's not that you feel they hate you, it's that you hate them.
Right. Is that smug villain finally showing up for a live?
Yep. Well, you know, I would like to be here more often, but, you know, sometimes family calls, you know, responsibilities call. I'd rather spend time here a lot of times, but what can you do, you know?
You just say you'd rather spend time getting that ass.
Well, you know, that's...
Well, let me read the super chat and pass it back to Villain. Will says, one thing that I can say for a fact that will keep eyes of this low attention span generation focused is knockouts and highlight reels. Keep these guys fighting. It's the best form of absolutely. If you want to sell if you're selling fighters, what do they need to do, Villain? If you're selling active. What they need to fight, right?
Right.
Yeah. What good are fighters that don't fight?
Well, that's the thing that's bogging down boxing is it's not the fact that people don't get excited, because we all agree here, when you put the right people in the ring or you get a good event, then people will pay money. What's most disappointing about the sport is not the fact that how exciting it is, because it is. What I think, at least me personally, why I got so pissed off about the PBC is they would purposely avoid fights, and then there was more minutia around not making the fight, defending not making the fight, than actually making the fights. I'm here to watch fights. I want to see good fights. And what's killing the sport is the fact that fans are accepting and paying for these shitty cards that don't put out. So you know what? If you're not willing to do that, then
they're not paying for them. They're not. The other thing about it is, I'm glad you brought up that period in between when a fight starts to get talked about and when it actually gets made. A lot of these hack content creators that don't know anything about boxing, which is why they're so often wrong about literally everything that pertains to boxing, is that period in between when a fight gets talked about and a fight gets made. That is where they make their money. Now, me, for example, I literally make mine, or a good chunk of it, after the fight is over. When you see that I was right, like, for example, this past week, right? I made a lot of money telling you guys Showtime is going to leave boxing, guys. I made a lot of money when Spence got his fucking ass kicked just off of 2 days. Just 2 days. I made a lot just off of that. Never mind the base. Made a lot off of that. When Fulton got his ass kicked. God bless him, though, because I fuck with him, but got his ass kicked. So basically what I'm saying is the gimmicks are about to be over because people don't have paying people. You cater to a market that, one, doesn't contribute anything to boxing, and two, very soon will become disinterested in boxing. And when they do, they will become disinterested in you. They don't need to hear what the fuck you think, because of how many times have you been wrong already? I could name names of metrics where they're already down if you're paying attention. if you're paying attention. You can go look. These are very big channels that have been around much longer than this one, and their numbers are down. Gee, I wonder why. You better start covering another sport.
But I do think the tide's changing. I've noticed. Like, I tweeted that thing after the fight. Like, Boots, let your fucking nuts hang. You're not a Showtime guy. And there's more fighters calling, like, yeah, Boots, you need to fight the next guy that beat the number one guy, number one contender. You need to do that. And then you got very few guys, Jules, saying, no, what do I need it? I don't need it. Boots is 1,000-0 in mythical fights already now. 1,000.
Shout out to Cherno Alpha. If ESPN leaves, where does that leave Top Rank since Bob is in with the Saudis? I would say the problem is slightly different because they're looking for a buyer for ESPN, literally a buyer for that platform. So the whole platform, the whole thing. So I don't think Bob is dumb. Bob knows what's going on, and he's like, okay, we got to start looking for a potential new broadcast partner, and we're on it now. They're not dummies like those guys were at Showtime. They know, like, okay, where are some potential places we can go? And I would not rule out NBC or DAZN. If I had to look for two, who the fuck is that?
The ghost of Chris.
I don't hear.
If I had to look at two platforms that I think Top Rank Boxing could land on, one is NBC. Yep, that's a possibility. One is DAZN, and a third, for good measure, Amazon.
How big is NBC though?
Real big.
Globally or just America?
Dude, NBC,
America. NBC is big in America.
But NBC is bigger than ESPN. I mean, as a total platform, NBC,
by and large,
NBC is massive. I mean, ESPN to us as sports fans is big. NBC is the size of the sun compared to the Earth when it comes to size. Go. Yeah, it's massive.
That if let's liken it, if Jupiter is ESPN, which is the biggest planet in the solar system, NBC would be the sun. Yeah. Networks, terrestrial networks like Fox, NBC, ABC, CBS, these are huge networks.
A good way to compare it is the biggest thing it's ever seen globally on the sports in sports is like the Olympics. And that's never going to be on like an ESPN or TBS or something. Exactly. That's going to be on like an ABC, an NBC, a CBS. And it's the same deal when it comes to programming. As much as I like things that would be on Netflix or things that I would like on smaller channels, when you get to a major, when you are like Law and Order SVU, as much as maybe that show isn't popular to you and I, across the United States, it is massive. The amount of eyes that you're gonna see comparatively to compare like a DAZN or ESPN to an NBC, you're gonna create and find more boxing fans or potential fans by being on a platform that large.
Okay, well, it's not. Hold on. It's not just the size of the platform. Also, it's also that it's a terrestrial platform, meaning you don't have to pay any extra to have it. You don't have to. It's a terrestrial. If you're in New York, you get NBC off top. There's about 5 or 6 channels you get off top if you in New York that you don't need a cable provider for. Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 7, Channel 9, and Channel 11. You get those channels, those are terrestrial channels, and you get all of them for nothing. And that's the difference between them and ESPN, which in New York, yeah, you still need a basic cable provider to get ESPN. A cable package, you need that basic cable package. They have the reach that all those other guys don't have.
You know, it wouldn't be a terrible idea also for Bob to jump ship with ESPN, because you can look at the metrics across the board. For the past couple of years, they're having to lay people off. You can tell that the platform is shrinking. Now, I don't want to get political with it, but in my opinion, has a lot to do with the fact they're not catering to fans or catering to ideologies a lot of times now.
Yep.
But you can see the fact that platform, for like what, the last 35, 40 years, all it has done has printed money, where now they're actually having to cut back. And if Bob's smart, which he is, he's recognizing the fact that it looks like it's a dying star.
And he's not going to wait. And listen, their deal is good through 2025. So, don't worry about next year something crazy happening. Their deal is good through 2025. And I'm very confident in a year's time they'll know where to go. They'll know what to do because those are serious people over there. That's not a clown show over there. Those are serious people that are about their business over there.
Well,
it's not that clown show at Showtime.
I mean, how long has he been in? How long has he been in boxing? 50 years. I mean, you don't stay in anything for 50 years if you don't know what you're doing.
Oh! Well, somebody said it for us, villain. We ain't even got to say it. Somebody said it for us because look, man. I posted it.
There you go, because that shit gets boring after a while. Hearing all that political shit, like, bro, when I turn on the TV, bro, I'm just trying to chill, bro. I'm not trying to hear
all that crazy shit. I'm not, bro.
Crazy shit, bro. I'm just trying to chill, bro.
There's certain platforms that you need to leave alone. I'm not saying that politics don't have a place. Of course they have a place. But people, what are sports? They're escaping.
It's the escape, bro. Yeah, people in the Great Depression escaped being depressed by watching sports, bro.
When I watch sports, I don't want to think about what's going on with the economy. I don't want to know I don't want to worry about what's going on with wars. I want to know this. This is my escape from life, from everything else. But when you're bringing it to the forefront and now it's shoved in my face, I'm not saying it doesn't have merit. I'm just saying I don't want to hear. Put it someplace else. If I want to find it, I can find it. I don't want to find it in sports.
Exactly. I 100% echo that sentiment. I'm going to smoke a cigarette, and I want Michael and Villain to sing songs of glory. My glory. I'll be back.
The problem is I don't sing, but I'm happy to. Yeah, you don't want to hear me sing.
I can't sing either.
Good. I ain't singing. Everybody will leave the channel if I did, man.
There goes Chris with the fucked up mic.
A wise man knows his limitations, and singing is my limitation. There won't be.
Yes, sir. I'm right there with you.
I'm not gonna lie, you get me drunk enough though, I'll sing. I can't lie.
Well,
yeah, we know that.
The rumor is if we get you drunk enough, you'll do just about anything. Hey, that's what the streets say.
Don't be listening to Drew.
That's what the streets say. I'm just echoing the streets, sir. Don't get mad at me.
I don't be in the streets, bro.
No. It's what the streets are saying, my friend.
What?
The streets are saying.
What does Drew know that we don't? What does Drew know that we don't know, Michael?
Don't be listening to Drew.
He hasn't said anything to me. What does he know?
He be lying on my name, bro.
Michael got skeletons, man. See, got skeletons.
Well, I just remind Michael when Haitians take L's on Twitter. That's all.
Yo, every week I'm getting reminded. Every week.
Bro, unfortunately, Haiti as a country's been taking L's for quite a while. Unfortunately,
that's different. You gotta blame the French for that.
Oh, you gotta blame the French for a lot of things. That's just one of the things.
But aren't you impressed, Michael, that I know that history?
Do you know about the Haitian Revolution?
I know about I know about Tourvant. Like, how do you say his name? Toussaint
Louverture.
Toussaint Louverture, yes. And I know the embargoes and all the shit the French did after the revolution.
Okay.
You guys, Haiti shares island with the Dominican Republic, correct?
They share the island with the DR.
Yeah, you guys get along. How does that work?
I mean, get along? Are you fucking nuts?
No, what I'm saying is you're not hearing about a skirmish like every week. So in my opinion, that's getting along. You're not. I mean, like right now, it's going over.
No, it's pretty bad right now.
It's bad. They're never really getting along. They're like.
Are they getting along better? Are they getting along better than Israel and the Palestinian people?
It's not that bad because
so they're getting along better.
You gotta understand, it's not that bad because they don't have
access to stuff like that, the weapons like that. But it probably would get that bad if they had weapons like that.
Well, no, they don't have Mossad and the CIA creating a group called Hamas like they did Al Qaeda. So, but that's a whole nother story.
Not to change the subject, but like all I hear now, even in the chat right now, and I see this on Twitter. Why is it everything I hear about Boots? I don't disagree that Boots is a good fighter, but if you can name like 5 guys on his resume that puts him in the league to like fight somebody like Crawford, I would even say that Thurman would have a better.
I'm just gonna say it, Villain, because Jules is taking a smoke break, so it doesn't count.
Okay.
Because he's young, athletic, American, and black. That they think he's just the cream of the crop, and he hasn't proven shit. Skin color politics, like Coach says.
But again, that doesn't for me. If somebody is using that as an ideology of why they're going to be good, it's dumb. I mean,
well, you're asking people that are dumb to use use basic logic.
I'm not dumb, so I try to understand why dumb people do dumb shit. I don't get it. I don't doubt the fact that he's good. I've seen the guy fight, But like with the last fight, the guy that he had, the guy he fought before was what, about a C-level come forward fighter? He was like tailor made for him.
Wasn't that
Exactly.
didn't he fight Chikadze in then, or was that the fight before?
Yeah.
No,
that was before.
that was Roman.
That was before. That was
yeah,
Villa.
that was before. That was before.
That's
His last
right.
fight
That's
was
right.
Roman.
But
who was it? Roman
Villa.
Valla? Who was the guy he fought? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Roman
Villa,
Villa.
but
Yeah, he
Villa-
was tailor made for
You're
him.
asking.
Well, yeah,
you're-
he's a tailor-made fighter, and I'm not saying that Roman Villa is not a bad fighter. He's probably a good, solid C-level fighter, right? Maybe B minus.
Villa, I'll cut it down to you very simply. All right, the people propping up Boots are just the upset Spence fans. That's how Spence go out like the way he did. That's all it is. That's literally all it is. They don't actually. They don't even know if he'd win. To be honest, they don't even know if he'd win. They're not even confident. They just want to see it happen.
Well, but it's the same. It seems like the same thing they said about Spence. Is like Spence, doesn't lose rounds and he beats everybody and he's X, Y, and Z.
I never see Spence loses rounds. I don't know why people say that.
People say that all the time. That's been echoed all the time. Spence is like unstoppable, right? He's unbeatable. You put him in the ring with Crawford and he got destroyed. He was humiliated. The thing is that Boots obviously has a skill set, but the way a fighter actually has the capacity to be a great fighter is that they have to be resilient. I mean, the thing is, you can say what you want about Crawford, but Crawford beat Gamboa. When Gamboa was in his prime, it was a great win when he beat him. He fought
was a
Green Bean
fighter at that time.
Right. Yeah. He was a pound for pound fighter.
Undefeated.
And that was the fresh off him winning the belt against Burns, right? So when he fought that Gamboa was a former gold medalist and he was in his prime. He was a great fighter. But if you notice, that fight went 9 rounds and Crawford struggled. I wouldn't say struggled, but it was a good fight. It was a back and forth, and he ended up overcoming and winning the fight. He got in there and he fought a guy like Kabanaskis. He fought Green Beans. Right? He did get put down, in my opinion. He got knocked down.
Yeah, no, he definitely did.
Yeah, he got back up, and what did he do? A guy who was stronger than him, a guy who was a really good fighter, he overcame that adversity and won. My issue is that Boots has not had any of that. So when you don't have any adversity,
right, he's not developed enough yet, and that's the
what
problem.
I'm saying. But it's also adversity. You have to understand. There's a guy named Michael Williams, I think his name is, a guy that had an ESPN that lost to a Puerto Rican fighter. After that point, he was like 18-0. They were building him up. He got the shit beat out of him. I forget what the guy beat him, but he was a Puerto Rican dude, right? Today, he won on some small card last weekend. The guy was like 22-1. The point was, the moment that guy had adversity, he couldn't get past it. Boots has not had adversity. So it's very easy to say, well, this guy's fantastic. He can beat anybody and everybody. What makes a fighter great, what makes a fighter not good, but great, is battling adversity, overcoming that, and winning. What has Boots done? Someone point to me, what has Boots done to overcome any sort of adversity? That's what I want to know. Just point one fight. Okay. So we can agree, trying to put him on the same level of Crawford is lunacy and stupid.
At this point in time, yes. If he develops and gets better, he may be a good challenge for him by that time. But I want to see that fight when he really is a challenge, though.
But they're never going to fight. They're in two completely different places. You got a guy who's looking to cash out because he's 37-30, has nothing else to prove on paper. He wants to make money. I totally understand that. You have a guy who hasn't even won a world championship yet, right? An actual true world championship. Those guys are on the other end of the spectrum. There is no reason for them to fight. There's nothing that Crawford's going to gain financially to fight them, right? If he wins, he was supposed to. If he loses, then he's a fraud, right? So there's no reason for those guys to fight. It doesn't mean that it wouldn't be a good fight, but from just a political standpoint, that fight makes zero sense. They're going in two completely polar different directions. So Bud can fight him, blah, blah, blah. There would be no reason for the fight to happen. Bud made it clear, I'm at 147. I won. I'm gonna end up moving up or doing something different. He wants to make money. So tell me why he would fight Boots. Why? What would be the purpose behind that fight for him? Exactly.
Not only that, Boots
trying to tell people that who insist.
Let's not act like Boots hasn't even had his. They love to ignore the fact that Boots has had his chance like 2 times by now with the BLK Prime thing. And not only that, but bro, you were literally mandatory for Crawford. You went the other way. You were literally mandatory for him. You were number 1. You could have petitioned to be mandatory. You chose to go the IBF route. That's a duck.
Well, okay, but I'll just even excuse that. I'm going to play devil's advocate. Let's excuse all of it. Let's just say that never happened. But even now, if he didn't do all those things, which you are correct, he did, what would be, if you're the agent or the manager for Crawford, how could you present that as a fight saying, okay, you got 2 or maybe 3 fights left tops. This is a great fight for you because this guy's up and coming, even though you don't want to fight at 147 anymore, even though we know you're not going to make much money if you fought Charlo or if you fought Tim Tszyu in Australia, for example. Now you're going to become what? Is it a 4-division champion? So you can go in as a 4-division champion, or you can fight this guy who's never fought any true competition, who just happens to be somebody who a small segment of fans thinks is a world beater. Which avenue do you go? Do you go for money, or do you fight the guy that you gain nothing from? What makes sense?
Yeah,
Exactly.
The other thing is this. Okay, Ennis, I think he has a claim to fight Terence Crawford independent.
Yeah, he's mandatory.
He's a mandatory, and forget the Spence fight, forget the Terence Crawford fight before. Now is an opposition to challenge Terence Crawford. Okay, if he were to fight, how that fight happens? Who's going to bankrupt that fight? Who's going to pay for them?
That's such a good question.
Exactly, because he's in free fall right now. Showtime's gone.
The whole thing about Ennis not wanting to fight Terence Crawford in that moment with the PLK deal was because they were supposed to be loyal to Showtime. Okay, Showtime is gone. So how that fight happens? Terence Crawford's gonna have to pay for that fight.
That's why I fucking love Leo, because Leo is the only guy whose brain works like mine. It must be a Chilean thing.
Hey, what the fuck? What am I?
Hey, listen, guy. Let me tell you something.
Well, fuck you too.
What Leo just said is so relevant that I think it would go over most people's heads. That okay, well, let's just say Terence wanted to fight him. Who's gonna pay them?
I think DAZN will put up money for.
No, you can listen. You can shop the fight if that's what you mean. You'd have to shop the fight because neither one of them. Terence doesn't have a multi-fight deal with the PBC. He has an engagement with Errol that pertains to Errol. It's not according to Hoyle PBC fighter. If that situation with Errol doesn't happen and a better one pops up, he can go. He can leave. Boots was never a PBC fighter to begin with. He's a Cameron Duncan fighter. I've said it a million times. He's not one of Heyman's guys. He was just fighting on PBC shows via Showtime, but Showtime is out of boxing.
Okay, so, I got even another question. I'm going to interrupt you, but Showtime doesn't even have a place to show fights, right, at the end of the year. So what do these guys do? Literally, what do they do with Canelo? What do they do with Bud? I mean, what do they do with the rest of the stable? How can you even make a fight?
I said it last week that in all likelihood they're going to use the 2-fight deal. If I'm Heyman and my ass is in the bare winner right now, I use the Canelo contract, the 2 fights that I have with him, to try to get a new deal because that's an incentive. I can go to a broadcaster and say that if nothing else, I literally have the top draw in American boxing for 2 more fights.
Okay, so let's go off what you're saying, your premise. But realistically, you can agree with me that buys them 1 year maximum. So
of course, bro. I don't know if you. I don't even know about an annual commitment at that. You're absolutely right that's not a lot to bargain with. That's not a lot.
You're gonna go great. I got Canelo for 2 fights. I got Bud at least for 1, potentially 2 more fights. We can put those guys on through the calendar year. But if you're going to be a broadcaster and go, listen, with all due respect, Mr. Heyman, your product has been dog shit for the past X amount of years. What is going to make us want to sign more than a 1-year deal with you? And he's got nothing else. Who do he has to bargain?
No, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That's what I've been saying, and that's what the rumors. Drew heard the same rumors I heard. I'm sure Rick Glacier heard the same rumors. It's a distribution deal as far as Amazon is concerned for only big shows. We're not talking about an annual commitment or a multi-year commitment. And you need an annual commitment for the other. I mean, you need a multi-year commitment for the other guys. You need an annual budget to do shows throughout the calendar year. And that's not what Amazon's talking about. The only ones who might have been talking about that, and I'm not even sure if they still are DAZN. They'll bankroll your shows for a year for multi whatever's going on. They'll do that. But you don't want. But they don't. Heyman doesn't want them.
So Heyman would rather not be on TV than to go to the zone. He would literally put it rather in the back of a bar someplace and charge a mission than get something with the zone.
Yeah, I'm saying I said that the guy does business like a scorned woman. Like with him, there's grudges and egos and bullshit. This is a very simple thing. In the landscape you're in, everyone, not exclusive to this boxing shit, is promoting consolidation because content is content specific. People that want movies want movies. People that want to see MCU want to see MCU. If they want to see this shit, they want to see this shit. They don't want the add-ons. So for the sports people that are into boxing, you need to go where there's already boxing, all right? So you don't have to fight for eyes. What I believe he wants to do based on how he's moving is he prefers to work with someone that doesn't know boxing, so he's free to roam and free to do what he wants because they can't challenge him. They're not going to know the market value of a show. They're not going to know what a fight is supposed to draw. So he can do whatever he wants. When he jumped into bed with Fox and Bill Wenger don't know shit about boxing. He doesn't know the market value of a show. That's why they overspent for the Fury versus Wilder fight. The second one. Remember, that was Fox.
Yeah.
They gave those... Wait, one at a time.
Sorry.
The first fight, guaranteed purses. You can tell they didn't know what they were doing because how do you go from $7 million in guaranteed purses for the first fight to 60 million, 50 to 60 million for the second? The estimated guaranteed purses from the first to the second is between 25 and 30 to each fighter. That is insanity. Why would you do that? And the only reason I can think of is those guys didn't know what the fuck they were doing. They didn't know the market value of a show. So Heyman must have talked them into giving him that kind of money.
Jules,
it doesn't make sense.
Jules, do you know the type of business where you get involved with people who don't know what they're doing? You know what that business is? The music business. When you hire somebody, right, you give them a record deal. They go in, you pull them off the street, you give them $100,000. You say, we're going to sign you a 10-record contract. Those guys don't know a single thing about the music business.
They give them a cash advance. They basically, when they get that cash advance, that's literally a budget for your studio time, your music videos. It's a loan.
Correct.
In
But you would agree that whenever you sign an act, a band, or whatever it is, when you're pulling those people out of a garage or you're taking them off like a small stage and you present them with a contract, with money and whatever else, they have no idea what they're walking into. So, of course, a guy who's already been involved in a business practice like that wants to go and work with somebody who doesn't know the value of a show.
And that is my contention.
Exactly. I 100% agree with that. That makes total sense because he knows if he goes to the zone, Eddie knows what's going on. The owners knows what's going on. Everybody who's involved with it knows what's going on when it comes to boxing. He can't pull the same bullshit that he can over on Showtime, or can't pull the bullshit he did on NBC or Spike or whatever he's been on before.
Yeah, because who at those networks is going to challenge him on what the market value of a show is and what the spending is going to look like?
They have no idea. The market executives have no clue.
By the time they realize how much money he's fucked off, the deal is almost over, and they're like, nah, fuck this. You can go. We don't need that content. You can go. That's what Fox did. It was supposed to be this landmark fucking deal and all this bullshit. And I can tell that what happened with Wilder versus Fury 2 and 3, bro, just explain it to me. If the guaranteed purses were $7 million in total, 4 to Wilder guaranteed, 3 to Fury guaranteed, who's the fucking genius that turned that into 50 and 60 million? That's fucking insane, bro. Ideally, if you're not trying to rob the bank and you're trying to do good business, you know what I would do? Wilder, here's 10 for you. Fury, here's 7 to 10 for you, and you'll make the rest on the upside because there will be an upside. The craziest thing about that fight is it could have been a monumental success, but the operational costs are so fucking high. You fucked off too much money.
Don't forget they paid for the NFL ad, and how much was that? That was like almost $3 million.
Yeah, each NFL ad is between $3 and $4 million for 15 fucking seconds.
The Super Bowl ad, that's what it was.
I agree with Tim. Al's looking for his new Steven Espinoza.
Yeah, he's looking for a new main squeeze. Shout out the best. Well, let me read the super chats.
Okay.
Shout out the best pit bull breeder who says NBC and DAZN, 2 apps, free fights on every Friday to build this to build the sport. Truckloads of free Saturday pay-per-views, huge fights. Ranked boxers from A to B, pay-per-view only, elite level. I'm so glad he said that because that grooming system has been absent. You know, those Thursday night fights, those Friday night fights, where that needs to. And if you had all of that content on one platform, you could bring all that back because you would have the bodies to bring all that back. Look, I'm sorry, but Erickson Lubin is not a primetime fighter. He's an undercard fighter at his very best. Okay, he belongs on Friday.
The closest thing to like Friday night fights or Tuesday night fights that's been happening.
Pro box.
Yep, exactly. And I'm happy that it's there because you know what? It's reminiscent of that. And I love those back in the day, man, because you didn't see all like the major stars on there, but you got to see some really good fights with no names and it didn't matter. You know, but you got to see some great fights and it was great content.
And they need to bring that back because shout out to Quentin who pointed out that in a calendar year there are approximately 52 Saturdays, which is true. But at the same time, there's regions, there's time zones. And if there are 52 Saturdays, you know what that means? There are 52 Fridays, 52 Thursdays that you can use. Maybe you have a Golden Boy promotion show on a Thursday or a Friday, a Matchroom or PBC show on a Saturday. You can make it work.
Wasn't Boxing After Dark on Friday nights as well?
That's what I'm talking about. This is what I mean. That
I miss those days.
If you have a team effort to stimulate the American market, which honestly does need to be stimulated, if it's a team, if it's Golden Boy, if it's Matchroom, if it's PBC, you literally could make it work. But Al doesn't want that because you can't run around like a madman peddling pure dog shit at the zone. They know more about boxing than a fucking Amazon. Yeah, they've been in boxing for about 5 or 6 years now. They know more about it than the people at Amazon. But the people at Amazon, you could tell them whatever you want. You could tell them, yeah, man, Jesus Ramos is Julio Iglesias in his country, man. He's fucking top shit, top draw, top dog. If they're actually willing to jump into bed with you.
I'll say one thing. I totally have a lot of respect for what Showbox is doing because they're doing something very organic. They're not going out there and throwing a lot of money out there. They're like,
we're talking about Showbox or ProBox?
ProBox, I'm sorry, yeah, ProBox. I apologize. No, what I like about this is those Wednesday night fights. There's no competition whatsoever. The guys that are doing it are intelligent. The ones that are actually talking. They're having shows that you can go on and they're filling those gaps in. They're doing interviews. They're talking about fights in the past. They're bringing in people like Tim Bradley and other guys that are giving their commentary. So what they're doing is filling the holes for what we're lacking, those Friday nights and Thursday night fights. So I'm a huge fan of that. The other question I had for you, or the question I have for you is, they gave Wilder $4 million, you said, for the first fight, correct?
Yes.
What was he being paid prior to that fight? Did he make more than $4 million prior to that?
No.
Okay, so that was, can we argue that was, or maybe his largest payday?
I don't
know.
You would have to say that his largest paydays came from the Fury fights. However, they shouldn't have been that large. They gave you money that you weren't good for, in other words, which is why they were in the negative.
What I'm saying is prior. I apologize. Yep. Prior to the first Fury fight, that was the biggest guarantee.
Yeah, that was the biggest guarantee. Okay. This is the point I'm making.
Okay.
This is the point I'm making. You have to control spending when you roll the dice. So when you roll the dice, you don't fucking roll $50 or $60 million. Not when before you rolled under 10. How do you go from under 10 in guaranteed purses to 50 and 60? Who proved that? And that remember, that wasn't Showtime. At the time, Showtime decided if Wilder wants to go to Fox, go ahead, because a Luis Ortiz pay-per-view does not make sense fiscally to us. That tells me you went over to Fox, you put some bullshit in their ear, they give you this money that this fight is not worth, you lose that money, which is why immediately after that, with the pandemic that happened, right, the shutdown and all of that bullshit, that's what I was like, yeah, we got to cut some of this shit. We're not going to be spending all this money on all this bullshit for you to fucking flop at the box office. And what makes it such a monumental flop is, bro, if you would have kept the guaranteed purses at, say, 20 million, y'all literally would have made money, and you would have been in the plus. You would have been in the black.
Yeah.
The way you did it, you put everybody in the red. What kind of fucking what fucking crackerjack business is this? Like, and it's because Heyman treats everything like it's a swindle because he's a music guy. You don't do good business. That's why you've been on NBC. That's why you've been on Spike, Bounce. You were on ESPN for a little bit, for a small moment. The ITV deal, that lasted about one fucking day. Because you don't do good business. You do bad business. Yep. Now, shout out to Liam, who says, DAZN needs to be careful not to fall into the pay-per-view trap for fights that aren't pay-per-view worthy. Haney versus Prograis should not be on pay-per-view. I share in that opinion, but I am going to buy it. I do agree. I feel like that fight would better service a platform and draw more eyes to it as a regular fight, as part of a subscription, instead of a box office fight behind a paywall. However, I am going to buy it. I encourage other people to buy it because if nothing else, Devin is not a bitch.
That's right.
We could say we could say whatever we want about the Lomachenko fight and what happened. At the end of the day, this is not an easy. Well, this is a good fight for you. Just moving up, you fighting a puncher. You could have fought a Cano. You could have fought a Catterall. You could have fought a lot of people. You're choosing to fight a champion. You're choosing to fight a puncher. So you got my money. I'm going to pay for that. I'm going to watch that.
Hey, Jules, Danny Phantasmo has a pretty good comment. I mean, we kind of already said it, but he says things will only change if three things happen. One, promoters working together, and two, fighters tempering their demands, really only in America. Three, grassroots movements, but easier said than done. I agree with him.
Absolutely, because those are the three things that need to change. Being a local draw, so many fighters and so many managers want to skip steps now based on entitlement when you need to crawl before you walk, and you need to walk before you run. If you ain't a draw in your city, how the fuck you gonna be a draw across the country, across the nation? We don't even know if you appeal to people around the corner from where you live. How the fuck you gonna appeal to people that live states and hundreds of miles away? And that's why the UK boxing scene, shout out to Beats, because we talked about this the other day, that's what makes the UK boxing scene organic. That a lot of these guys like your Johnny Fisher, they're local draws before they blow up. They get the people from around the neighborhood, the people from around the town or the county or however the fuck it works over there, the district. They the ones that fuck with you first. And then you become a draw, Shout out to Rider of the Storm. Salute Jules and panel. PBC on Pro TV. I don't know, man. I don't know. Let me grab my coffee. I'll be right back. Y'all sing some songs of glory.
Yo, bro, we can't sing, bro.
You can sing, Michael. I can hear it.
You can't sing. Nobody here can sing.
And we ain't going to either.
Sing, motherfucker. Start singing. Shit. Nah, bro. Why Rocha get his ass beat like that, bro?
What's that?
Why?
Michael, you just can't get over that, can you?
Oh my god, that was sad to watch, bro. I like Rocha.
What happened?
Michael can't get over Rocha getting his ass beat by Santana.
Why is that shocking?
How far did you to watch, bro?
But what pillar did you put the guy on?
It's just I liked how he lost and then he was building himself back up. I was supporting him all the way, and then damn, that happened.
Well, know what? His team didn't do their due diligence enough, and they didn't know. They should have known a little better about Santillan, man, and they didn't.
I don't think so. I just don't think that's fair.
Well, dude, I saw some comments where people saying that Santillan had to be on the juice, on the snack program, because he doesn't quote unquote ever punch like that.
Please, that is true. I did look at his record. He has like a 60%, 50% knockout ratio. Like, it's
talking about Santillan?
Yeah, it's not big. So,
man, guys,
let's say this. Let's say this, guys, because I think this is what happened. If he were fighting like that every fight, we would have heard about him.
Yes,
we would have known more about him. That's saying that people that, because Alexis knows the top rank guys, and he said it himself that. That's just not the kind of performances that he's been having. So don't forget that these two guys were sparring partners for a time.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yep. And what we saw could have been what we could have saw was the familiarity that I don't know that Santi Liang is like that all the time. I'm just going to say that he is a pressure guy. That's what I saw from him. You're a pressure guy. You're a mid-range to inside pressure guy, pressure fighter. But if you were fighting like that all the time, yeah, I would have known a little bit more about you.
I would have
been making
known
waves.
about you, bro.
But if you guys, if you're a sparring partner, you're gonna know that guy better than anybody else. So you know what you can take advantage of. If if you're gonna dance with somebody enough, there's you're not unfamiliar with him. So he found his capacity to expose those problems that he couldn't deal with. So I think I think you have to really put a lot of emphasis on the fact that they spent a lot of rounds together prior to that. That helped.
And that's how I'm looking at it. That I'm gonna give him the benefit because that was a great performance, by the way. That's how you win when you on the road. Yeah, that's how you win, bro. That's how you gotta be. That's what you gotta do.
He put a stamp on that shit, man.
He beat the crap out of Rocha, bro.
That's the
6 rounds.
The way to get the boxing community, if you want to get their attention and you want to get it fast, you have a performance like that. That's definitely going to get you on the radar now for sure.
And I'm telling you, I know what the next step is.
What's the next step?
Josh Taylor at 147 for the vacant WBO title.
You do not fucking put Josh Taylor in with that fucking animal.
In March,
I don't think the Josh Taylor that we saw.
That's what the next step is. They don't have anybody at 147 on top.
Right? You trying to get Josh killed?
The Josh Taylor we saw against Tio doesn't beat that guy. He gets a shit beat out of him.
That's why he has to move up in weight. He's been struggling. He hasn't looked good.
It's not that he's, but you don't fight a fucking animal like that. Well, you know what, Michael, you might be onto something.
Not crazy, bro. I'm not gonna gas up this one performance. He looked fucking good. I'm not gonna gas up one performance.
Well, let's see if he can do it again.
If he fights like that again, then maybe. You know what I mean? But
Jules, I got a question for you.
I agree with that.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you, Michael. I don't disagree with you because that's where I'm at. They're like, how do I know that wasn't just because you know that dude? Like you know his tells.
Apparently, they've been in multiple camps with each other.
Exactly. So that could have been because I'm like, Brody, if you was fighting like that, I would have heard about you. Now I would have heard about you. So you must not be that guy all the time, So we'll see what happens.
Everybody in the chat, do me a favor and hit the like button. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Let's get the metrics up, please, if you don't mind. Another thing, I have a question that kind of shocked me to you. I wanted your opinion that they got the fight with the Ajagbai is going to be headlining a card. He's never done that before. Why do you think to put him on that card? He beat the guy he's fighting is Goodell, or he's going to fight as Goodell. Goodell had that
Australian guy.
Yep, but he had that big upset fight. I forget who he beat. He beat a guy in Oklahoma a couple months back. I don't remember who he had him. But what is your opinion of him headlining a card? He's never done that before. Why do you think they are? What are they positioning?
They were going to use they were going to use Robisi. I remember hearing that Ajagba's fight was going to be on the undercard of Robisi's fight. And I think they went ahead and bumped up Ajagba's fight because they moved Robisi's fight. That's what I remember hearing, that Robisi was going to be on that show.
But Ajagba, he hasn't headlined a card. He's always been like that second or third guy from the top.
I don't even think he should be headlining that card.
That's why I was shocked when I saw the fact that he was headlining a card.
Well, think about, a Nigerian and an Australian, and where are they going to be, in Oklahoma?
Lake Tahoe.
Yeah, it's like in the middle of nowhere for them.
No, it's in Lake Tahoe.
Might as well be in space.
Put that Shakur's on their card, in my opinion.
They be out there hearing lone doves crying, shit in the distance.
I'm saying they might as well put that shit like it's an oddity. But I remember hearing that was going to be on the undercard of Robisi's fight. But then they went ahead and pushed Robisi's fight out. I think they pushed it to November or December. They pushed it back. So now it's like they split them in two almost. Well, yeah, they split them in two basically.
So you're saying this is the hardcore card? Is that what you're saying? You gotta be.
This is the hardcore card, bro. This is like if you have boxing bed sheets, this is your card, bro.
Yeah,
like you really watch.
I don't know if this is the hardcore card because shit, I didn't even know about that shit.
Well,
so are we saying that you're
put it this way? Live? If you catch a guy watching that fight, he's not a hardcore boxing fan.
I'm gonna watch the fight.
Then you're a hardcore boxing fan.
Yeah, but
you would have to be.
I just like to see dudes punch each other in the face.
They better put that shit early, bro. I'm not staying up till 11.
That's an ESPN card, so it won't be that late. But they got the one thing I am happy about. They got that Brandon Moore, the guy they just signed, the heavyweight dude. They got him on an undercard, so I'm actually excited to see that fight. I want to see what he's about.
Hey, Jules, when is Liam Paro fighting Montana Love? I heard they're fighting
on the DAZN
on the undercard of Haney versus Prograde, bro.
Okay.
So
Montana Love hasn't retired yet. He's not washing windows someplace.
I mean, he should be. Look, you want my honest opinion? I would have preferred Stevie Sparks versus Liam Paro, Australian sensation fight.
No,
you got two other Australians. You got two other Australians fighting in Ebony Bridges and Avril Matthew. Fuck it, shoot for two. Because Montana Love, I'm not with that fleet of foot. I'm gonna do laps around the ring and stay behind one punch per round. Nah, homie. You don't belong on television with that shit. You belong in the club circuit with that shit.
No, but he does fight differently against southpaws, though, so it could be he'll open up more.
Montana Love is a fraud. I'm sorry, he's a fraud.
No, he'll open up more.
That dude, man, he's embarrassed. He embarrassed himself. Shit.
And I feel that Stevie got robbed in his last fight with the Spanish guy, man. You got robbed in that fight, man. The last one that he had, I thought he fucking beat that guy. Clear, I thought he beat that fucking guy. So that Montana Love gets the fight on a big show and he don't. When Stevie's the one who's made for TV, like, bro, we here to see you throw punches. We not here to see you beat your feet. Yeah, it's part of the game, but we not here to see you beat your feet all fucking night. We here to see you throw punches. And you didn't want to do nothing with Stevie when y'all was fighting. Why y'all didn't do a rematch? Shit.
Yeah. Hey, he's gonna be on the Haney undercard. That's an undercard fight for Haney.
Yeah, he is. He's fighting Liam Paro.
So you're gonna have a nap before you fall asleep. So we're gonna see Montana Love. I'm gonna take a nap and then Haney fights. And I go to bed.
Hey,
is that what that's gonna be?
Sancho says. Sancho says, "Bro, gonna bring his dog."
I'm gonna be fucking charged up with 3 cups of this.
No, you're gonna. You might have to smoke crack to stay up.
Bro, aren't you about to go to sleep?
Do coke.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. Aren't you about to go to sleep?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Right now.
Yeah, you're drinking coffee.
I'm Spanish. Let me help you, Michael. Spanish and I'm Dominican. I don't drink coffee to go to sleep. It's a ritual. I drink coffee before I sleep.
Dude, my wife does the same thing, dude. It'll be like 11 o'clock at night, and she's like making coffee. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, it's got caffeine. She goes, it doesn't affect me.
It doesn't affect me.
You don't. She's like, I drink so much coffee in my life that it does not matter. I'll drink this and I'll still go to bed. And I'm like, that's weird.
I might not go to sleep if I don't drink the coffee and float to Canada. No, but yeah, it doesn't.
What do we got coming down the pipe, man? I mean,
there's a fight this week, bro. There's a fight this Saturday. I forget which one, but there's a fight this Saturday. I think there's 2.
I got y'all. Serrano's fighting. That's what it is.
All right, there's Serrano's fighting.
She's fighting on Friday. Oh, the Fury and Ngannou shit. That's this week. I'm not watching that.
Well, no, but on Saturday night there's a fight too, though. Not just the Fury.
Foster, Hernandez.
That's the one I'm waiting for because the Cancun fight, that's gonna be a good fight. That's gonna be a good show. Foster versus Eduardo Rocky Hernandez. If you want to see the boxer versus the puncher, classic matchup, that's gonna be a good fight. Trust me, I'm not overselling it.
I don't know who I have in that fight, to be honest.
I'm leaning towards Rocky. I ain't even going front, but I'm gonna look again.
I'm leaning towards Foster, bro. You
think he could pull it off in Cancun, bro? He's gonna do enough?
It's in Cancun.
Does he have enough power? Is the question,
bro?
Eddie does not want him to win at all.
Does he have enough
I'm trying to tell you, because the shit is, for those that don't know, Eduardo Rocky Hernandez, he's a Matchroom fighter. Matchroom signed him. On top of that, it's in fucking Cancun.
Eddie does not want Rocky to win.
On top of that, he's a volume puncher and he's a knockout merchant. So I'm like, if this goes to the cards, they're gonna give it to Foster. He would have to put on one hell of a performance because this is not Ray Vargas. That's all I'm saying. Ray, when he fought Oshaki, that was literally his first fight at that weight, and his fight before that, he had moved up. He moved up to one weight, then moved up to another. This is not Ray Vargas you fighting, bro. I'm just saying.
Cooney and Tabiti is going to be the co-main event to that, I understand.
Yeah, I like that fight. Hopefully it's not a snoozer because they're both boxers. They're both boxers, Cooney and Tabiti. Tabiti's a boxer. Uni is a boxer. Neither of them are big on power, so we'll see what happens.
Is it going to be on DAZN or ESPN?
Yeah, that's DAZN, bro. Bro, I just said that's a matchroom show, bro.
Okay.
Eduardo Rocky Hernandez is a matchroom fighter. That's why I'm like, if it goes to the cards, you in Cancun, bro. Act like you know. You better make it emphatic because you in Cancun.
Don't forget Antonio Vargas. Antonio Vargas is gonna be on that Serrano undercard. He's up and coming. I think it's the co-main. We don't want to miss that fight.
I might go live for the Serrano on Friday. I'm not watching. Like, I'm not even. I don't know. I'll probably watch fucking Paramount Plus while the Fury fight is on, and then I'll go live at night.
That's during the day, though. That's not even at night.
No, that's what I'm trying to tell you. That I'm gonna watch movies in the afternoon, or I might take an old man nap. That's the other thing. I take my old man naps.
I do want to see the Adelaide thing.
Will you drink coffee before the nap?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's what we need to know.
Call my parole officer and find out should I drink coffee before it. I'm just.
Are you allowed?
Just playing, but yeah. I mean, that's a good Saturday of fights for me. That's a good Friday and Saturday of fights. So I'm happy about that. But yeah, man, like the only fight on that whole show that I care about is Adelaide and Wardley. But I'm not gonna pay $80 for one fight, bro. On an undercard?
That's crazy.
That's crazy,
bro.
You got a super chat, Jules.
Not only that, but you know Fury's not even taking it seriously because he has another fight scheduled in December. If that fight even falls through.
Yeah, but do we really believe? Like, I'm not rooting for them to be wrong. I'm cynical. Like, yeah, y'all really gonna fight in December? Really?
Has he even been prepping for a southpaw? Like,
I just don't see how you would have the time to prep for a fight if you fighting again in December. How?
They said that fight is signed, sealed, and delivered.
Yeah, that it'll happen, but it can happen in December. It can happen in January.
So why even announce that you're going to have it in December then? Why even bother?
Let me ask you. I'm just saying, if you fighting Ngannou at the end of October, you're gonna go into that means all right. So you're not gonna rest. You're gonna go straight into camp right after that.
That ain't gonna be a real fight. That's what I was just gonna ask you. This is gonna be more like some sort of event. What do you?
This is not a fight, bro.
That's what I was gonna ask you. What do you think what is the end game with this fight?
Bro,
I mean,
money, bro. What the fuck is gonna be the end game?
In the ring? Is it gonna be like where Mayweather just kind of carried Connor and then beat his ass at the end? What do you think? What do you think the game plan is?
I'm gonna tell you, I've killed a lot of brain cells with a lot of beer in my youth, and I am not gonna spend the few brain cells that I have left trying to figure out what the fuck is gonna happen between Ngannou and Fury.
Fair enough. That's a fair enough.
Let God decide what happens, bro. Let God decide, bro. Like, I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do. I wouldn't be surprised if Fury starts making out with him and Michael watch.
You're gay, bro.
Bro, he asked him about his Corey. Remember when he had the tight red shirt? Wasn't Fury asking him about his Corey?
Oh, bro.
Saying, bro, like I would. But it was some real shit. I'm not gonna rack my brain about what a circus fight looks like because for all I know, the whole thing is scripted, man. Come on.
That's what I'm trying to. That's kind of what I was alluding to.
Have you seen this man on the pads?
He's slow as molasses, bro.
I'm not gonna Jules, you can go on the pads and look better than him, bro.
No, bro,
dog, there's no snap. There's no snap on anything that he throws. It's like, bro, like you look like an Autobot in the middle of a fight. It's like you're just too big and kludgy.
Me off the couch with the.
He's all linear and shit.
Me off the couch with the hangovers looking better than he does on that. For real.
Honestly, because all those sports, right? Not to knock MMA because whatever. MMA, you're gonna develop certain muscle memory because of your drills and all the shit that you normally do. Boxing, same way. You're gonna develop muscle memory for all the drills and all the shit that you do. Ngannou doesn't have a boxer's muscle memory. So all what am I watching? Like I'm literally watching a guy who don't box a guy who all he do is box. And I'm supposed to pay for that?
If it's gonna be terrible, he could have fought Lawrence Okolie, man.
Oh my God! Don't even
imagine
bring his
Lawrence
ass out, bro.
Okoli versus Ngannou.
Bring his ass out, bro. Like, nah, that's
bro. She can
but that's
fight
the
Lawrence of
point that
He can fight Lawrence of Arabia, for God's sakes.
he would like, bro. It's just the whole thing is a circus for people that like. It's like if you was watching a baseball player and a football player go play basketball. What the fuck is this, bro? I don't like y'all don't even do that. What the fuck is this?
But you know what I blame? I blame all these YouTube cards. They're making this shit like normalized. Because usually this is like a circus.
Nah, you can't. I think people have to stop looking down on the YouTube cards, and here's why. That's not us that's buying that.
I understand that.
These guys just did 1.3 million with that show they just did.
I'm not disagreeing with it. What I'm saying is that the actual true boxers are seeing the money that they're gonna get, and they're willing to like put on these cards. Is what I'm saying. I'm not blaming the YouTube. They're in their own space. I get that. What I'm saying is when you see the numbers like 1.3, 800,000 pay-per-views, you know some manager is going to go up to Fury and go, listen, you can fight some MMA guy and we're going to do a million views and you're going to make $50 million. That's all I'm saying.
And we'll see. And that's the other thing. We'll see what it does because, like I said, I'm not going to jump to no bold proclamations about what it's going to do commercially. I'm literally saying I don't know because I'm not buying it.
Nobody's excited. Like nobody's talking about that fight. That's
what I'm saying. That Frank is saying this, and everybody's saying, well, the people that you would expect to say that it's big. Yeah, y'all gonna say that, but just from a perspective of somebody that spends money on boxing on a regular basis, I'm not buying that shit, and I'm not even remotely interested in that shit. I think it's a fucking waste that Fabio Wardley's fighting David Adelaide on that shit. When you could have put that at the O2 Arena by itself, it would have sold. Yeah, you could have sold that shit. You put it on that shit. Yeah, it's not. I like the fight, but it's not good enough for me to pay that kind of money to see
I think they're trying to get a fan like you. They're saying you understand it's a circus show, but if they put just enough fights that have some intrigue, they're expecting you to pull the trigger and buy it.
Tell you what y'all should have did that y'all didn't do. If y'all would have put Better B versus Bivol on that shit, I would have fucking bought it. I would have fucking bought it.
Yeah.
Putting fucking Joseph Parker versus who? Fuck out of here.
Bro, why is Joseph Parker still fighting?
I don't know, dog. I don't know, bro. He's on the undercard. I think it's Simon Keane he's fighting.
Damn, was talking about the undercard too.
He might have pictures of Bob Arum or something.
Yeah, maybe Bob wore some fishnets or some type of shit. Shout out to Liam Roscoe. Hooney has power. He just has weak bones in his hands. Shout out to my man Liam in Australia. Deed says Tyson Fury, the fraud of boxing. The idea that you're gonna go from that to a full-on fight with an Olympic gold medalist, two-division unified, it's hard to believe. That's all I'm saying. That really, and this is gonna happen in December. I hope it happens. I hope it does. I'm not against it, but it's very hard to believe.
It's a foolish way to do it. I mean, you know.
I mean, let's be honest. He probably has been training for Usyk. Because let's be honest, bro, he doesn't have to train for Ngannou, bro. I'm sorry.
No, he doesn't. I mean, he doesn't. Maybe this is like an extended Usyk camp or something.
It's not even a matter of underestimating your opponent. It's just that your opponent literally doesn't box.
Yeah.
Hey, Jules, have you seen Polo around lately, man? I haven't seen that guy.
He was in the chat, bro. He was in the chat earlier. He was in
it, dude. He changed his last name then because on YouTube it says Ramirez, on his Twitter it's Torres.
Bro, all you gotta do is look for the dude who's talking about some obscure Hispanic boxer in El Salvador. You know it's Polo. Just look for that. You know it's Polo. You're good.
You have to say
listen,
3 times.
Who's the guy he's always talking about, yo? Lindolfo. Listen, country, if you want to find Polo. After I get off this live, go in the bathroom, face the mirror, say Lindolfo Delgado 3 times, and clap. Polo will walk out the shop.
Polo will appear in the mirror. Polo will appear in the mirror and talk to you about him for 45 minutes.
And he won't stop. Bro.
The mirror's gonna light up like it's lights and shit. Hey, bro, Lindolfo Delgado.
You forgot to say bro 2 times. You have to say bro 2 times before you.
You know what I'm saying?
I give Polo credit, man. Polo, we talking about a dude who was homeless, who now lives in Dallas, who's now training, right? Who's on his 3rd day in the midst. He's already scoping that dude right there. He already knows what he's
we
gonna
got
do.
love for you, brother, but we just
hey,
fucking around, man.
Polo knows everything and anything about what's going on.
Bro, he know boxers SAT scores.
That's what
bro.
I'm saying. He knows the credit scores. He knows that they got evicted from an apartment before.
You know what I'm saying? He know the name of their dog, what cartoons they like. He knows. He got
color.
He got the
social
scoop,
security
bro.
number.
He got
Polo is the TMZ of boxing. He knows that. He knows anything you need to know.
TMZ. He's fucking KGB, bro. He knows the boxer shoe size and all that shit, bro.
What's Mexican CIA? What's that? That's what Polo is for boxing.
That's what he is, B. He's fucking like he'll tell you all type of shit about the box. Like, yeah, and he used to watch Bugs Bunny in the morning, and he would switch over and watch X. He knows all the shit, bro.
So that dude, he'll throw left-handed if he's pitching, but then he golfs right-handed.
Exactly.
Yeah, and when he doesn't get 12 hours of sleep, he gets irritable, right? And also he'll get really upset if he doesn't get enough vitamin D. The dude knows everything about him.
Mirage is like that too, but only about David Benavidez.
Do we see another good year of boxing next year? Because I think we had a solid year this year.
How?
Still a lot of cool shit we had to go through, of course.
No, we had a good year, but I think that the other thing is, look, last year wasn't a fantastic year for some platforms, but there were good fights. I mean, there were a lot of good fights, good memorable fights. This was a good year, but I think it was a top-heavy year. It's top-heavy in the sense that while Crawford versus Spence was what we thought, and we enjoyed that as a fight, that wasn't a fight. That was an ass whooping. It wasn't a fight.
Fulton anyway, same thing.
That wasn't a fight. That was an ass whooping. So it depends on what you really. I like the competitive, and it happens. Yeah, exactly, and it happens rarely, which is why I say, okay, that was an amazing fight, because it happens very rarely that there are ebbs and flows and back and forth. Like Conlon versus Wood, that was an excellent fucking fight.
So far, as far as this decade goes, it's probably fight of the decade so far.
Shit, not for nothing. Lee Wood versus Josh Warrington. Yo, he turned that shit around, bro. Like, cause he was losing that fucking fight, bro. He was losing that fight. That motherfucker out, bro. So I guess it's person specific, I guess, because while I definitely enjoyed Spence versus Crawford, but that's not a fight of the year candidate to me because it wasn't a fight. It was an ass whooping.
Yeah, there was no competition.
Bingo. No competition, bro. It was
it's competitive. That was just I want to stand you throwing, I'm catching.
Honestly, to be honest with you, I don't see PBC getting another network because they're just not profitable. I mean, they have the people who are going to go into business with them. They're going to look at their numbers. I see more likely that the fighters are going to separate from PBC and break out and go towards.
I'm glad you said that because you're addressing that's what I called 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, the doomsday scenario.
That's like an elephant in the room, though, right? That's
the doomsday scenario. In the doomsday scenario, if you cannot find a broadcaster to accommodate all the other fighters, not just the top heavy guys, but the other fighters, you become a booking agent. You start loaning out those fighters to whoever can use them. Top Rank can use them. Golden Boy can use them. Matchroom can use them. That's the doomsday scenario, though.
So my question is, if you're trying to sell that promotion company to get another network deal, besides having Canelo, having Crawford for a very short time, possibly Spence, how do you walk into a boardroom, sit down? What is your selling point after that? What do you have in your stable that's going to continue on? Why you would say we want to give you a 3-year or a 4-year?
Villain, I don't have the words because I know what he doesn't have. So I don't have the words. See, you got to understand that all the bright young American fighters, they went to Top Rank.
Correct.
So you don't have you don't have the next wave of flag bearers to carry that banner for the next 5,
they don't have any
10.
They don't have Spencer. so don't forget him.
Well, and Joey is something. He's definitely Joey Spencer.
Brandon Lee, he's something.
Yeah.
Don't
You know
forget.
what I'm saying?
Okay, Julius. The other thing is this: Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Davis, Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence. All those fights, they were good fights, but that doesn't mean that PBC has the numbers. Because if you look at the other guys that have, those guys don't sell and don't get any views.
Bro, that's
So
the point I'm making. That's the point of that take away the top heavy stuff, because when you talk about the top heavy stuff, what are we really talking about? 2-3 guys the max? That's what we're talking about. When you think about how many other fighters you have to accommodate, and I said it the last 3 lives, these guys don't have the drawing power of a Johnny Fisher. They don't have the drawing power in America of a Lee Wood in Nottingham or a Josh Warrington in Lee. They don't have it. They don't draw here, okay? I said it before, I'll say it again. I don't have nothing against Sebastian Fundora, but when he fought Brian Mendoza at the Punch Bowl, you could see there was nobody there. You could see that. So how do you walk into an office and say, give me $100 million for these guys that don't sell? I don't know how you would do that.
Brings up the good point. They're already killing David Morell with inactivity. That's facts. And that's a good fight. That's a good fighter that you have. You can build up. Yo, he has everything he needs to beat David Benavidez other than experience. That's somebody you can work with. Even Adames, you can build him up. But
he's also a valuable point that while we as hardcores know he exists, does he sell?
Nah.
No, not really.
What happened? But that's your job as a promoter to build him up.
Well, Heyman's not a promoter. He's an advisor. He advises. He doesn't promote. He advises.
Then get the Weasel out there. Get him promoting. Get him to do something.
But it's too late for that.
Where do you think Morell's going to end up?
Cuba.
You know what's sad? What's really sad, and there's not many fighters. There's not many fighters on that roster that I really give a shit about, because I think that it's a subpar roster overall. But I really like David Morell, and if he went to the right place, he could be an exciting guy to watch. But he's so mismanaged. He's so mismanaged. It's sad because he's a guy that could become a star. I mean, I'll take that back. I don't know if he'll become a star, but for at least a hardcore boxing fan like us, like as we are, he could be a guy that would be great. There could be some great matchups to fight. He would be great on the DAZN, I think. DAZN would be a good place for him to land, I think. Because they would move him correctly. And they would move him through fights. The
other thing is that let me say this about David Morell. While there isn't a huge Cuban contingent, because it's not huge, I'm sure anybody here stateside knows that among the Hispanic community or just the Latin American Spanish-speaking community or whatever, there's a lot of Mexicans. There's a lot of Mexicans, and there's a lot of Puerto Ricans. And then, you got some South American people. Then you might have a couple of Dominicans sprinkled here and there. And at the very bottom, you have Cubans, because there's not that many Cubans here. In New York, you'd be hard-pressed to bump into a Cuban. You'd bump into a Dominican person or Puerto Rican, but a Cuban, yeah, exactly. They're in fucking Florida, which is the fucking Twilight Zone, all right? Yes, it is. Florida man eats alligator, right? Fucking crazy.
That's a criminal-ass state, bro.
The point that I'm making is that because there's not a large enough contingent of Cubans in America to get behind the David Morell that watch boxing, it's like, don't you notice there have been lots of Cuban fighters that came through. Not a single one ever became a draw. Not a single one. Not Rigo, not Lara, not Dorticos, not Frankie Sanchez, because they don't have a contingent here that's big enough to push them. Well, so David, you would have to take David on the road, bro.
Yeah. Even Ugas, who had that huge push after Pacquiao, it didn't do anything. It didn't move the needle at all. I mean,
he doesn't even have eyebrows.
That's true.
Which makes him more marketable because he's aerodynamic. like a Prius.
If you can't end up moving the needle after you beat a guy. Well, okay, good comparison is that what happened after Jeff Horn? After Jeff Horn beat Pacquiao, his whole term profile raised a ton, stateside and over in Australia, right?
Yes,
but the thing is that after Ugas beat Pacquiao, you remember seeing the numbers he had against Spence.
And they were this, and that's the point. Thank you. You took the word that not only were you in there with a legend in Manny Pacquiao, in what many ways was a passing of the torch fight, but even after you got the torch, nobody gave a shit. Nobody cared because there's not enough people behind you here. So with a guy like David Morell, you have to try to get him popular in the sense that take him on a global stage and take him on the road. And his best bet to become a draw is consistently beating the shit out of people. It's got to be consistent. He's got to stay active so that the consumer looks at him and says, wow, this guy's beating the shit out of somebody. Every other fucking month he's kicking somebody's ass. And that will make him marketable because he doesn't have a built-in fan base to follow him and make him popular. He doesn't have it, and he's not going to have it in America. But if you take him on the road and keep him busy and keep him fighting, he could amass it from a mixed audience. They're like, nah, yeah, I'm not Cuban, but David Morell's one of my favorite fighters. Why? Because he's always beating the shit out of somebody. You keep him here the way they're doing it, lost cause.
Yeah, Julius, the best case scenario for all these guys is go fight to a non-pay-per-view fight, and get close to 1 million views based on your performances and your capability to deliver a good performance. That will be your best scenario, because maybe you're not gonna get 3, 4, 5 million per fight, but at least you're gonna have something to negotiate with your TV network, with the song, with your app network, with whatever, to keep increasing your market value. And when maybe you can cross over to another promotional company and see, I got numbers. Maybe I don't have a big fan base. I'm not American or Mexican, but I have some numbers. But all these guys, 100K, 200K, who's gonna fucking pay for that?
That's it. Really? You hit the nail on the head that they undermined the value of bringing numbers to a regular broadcast network for the dream of pay-per-view. And haven't you seen what the number? Nobody, practically none of, save a handful, and less than a handful, really. Most of the pay-per-views they put out didn't do shit. So just put shit on the regular platform, get eyes on it, and yes, the fights have to be interesting. I'm sorry, all right? This is tough economy. Groceries are going up. Shit happens, bro, right? And you got to give some of this shit away. Like, do I think David Morell versus David Benavidez is box office worthy? No. Why? Because David's not box office worthy. He was just at the box office, right? Right. What did he do? Nothing. What's he gonna do with Andre? Nothing. He's not gonna do anything. So should he be pay-per-view? No. Ideally, you do your David Morell and your David Benavidez on your regular platform, so you can get 1, maybe 1.5 million eyes on that, and then whoever wins, okay, let's keep the ball rolling. Let's keep your notoriety going. That's the way it's supposed to be. I don't got nothing against Demetrius Andrade and David Benavidez per se, right? But it's just, you can't tell me it's box office, and y'all probably not even gonna come to 300,000 with that shit, bro. Because if you couldn't do it with Plant, how you gonna do it with him?
Yeah.
On that note, gentlemen, I'm gonna go to sleep. Fucking tired. I'll see y'all on Friday.
Everybody have a good evening. Take care of yourselves.
Okay,
love one another. Love your family. Everybody on the chat, thanks for coming.
Everybody hold hands.
Jules.
Sing Kumbaya.
Kumbaya.
Hey, Jules, that one dude yesterday was hella weird, man. Are we ever gonna?
Before we go, I got a lot of complaints about that. Like, I got DMs on Instagram. I got DMs on Twitter.
That was funny.
Yeah, that dude was like on high, man. He was like, I think he was like ADHD and something else. He was like highly emotional, and he just.
I don't know, but I know the next day I checked my DMs and I had a bunch on Instagram. There's like, yo, why is the dude yelling? Is the dude yelling like what's going on? And I had a bunch on Twitter like, why is the dude yelling? I saw some comments under the video.
He was asking for a link today. Thank God you didn't give it to him.
Oh shit, I ain't even see that. Shout
No,
out to
that was
y'all.
a different guy. That was the guy who was trying to say that Jules was denying his blackness and all this other bullshit. He's a fucking El Jefe, man. He's a
that dude is not relevant. That child ass motherfucker. Shout out to Oscar Jimenez.
Here early at the beginning.
Shout out to Oscar Jimenez. They're gonna loan out Chunky Tank Davis the OnlyFans. He better open one up till he get a platform.